Okay, I'd like to call to order the Hartford Selectboard meeting at 6 o'clock on March 18th, 2025. Before we say the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to inform you that a resident of Hartford has established that the Select Board is in violation of the Vermont open meeting laws by virtue of the fact that we did not post public comment on our agenda for the March 6th special Select Board reorganizational meeting. As chair of the Select Board, I acknowledge that we and I take full responsibility for our agenda posting. Please accept apologies for this oversight. We have consulted with VLCT, that's Vermont League of City and Towns, for those of you who don't know, who recommend we incorporate public comments into our special reorganizational meetings from this point forward. To be fair to our town manager and the current members of the board and past members of the board, I researched my own time with the Select Board, and at least for the past 3 years, none of the reorganizational meetings, as well as a special meeting where their treasurer was appointed, included a public comment. Nonetheless, we will incorporate public comment into future reorganizational meetings and will continue to focus on building transparency as well as abiding by our rules and regulations regarding public comments in our agenda as we re-adopt them this evening in this evening's agenda. Thank you for drawing attention to this matter. So moving on, is there anyone who would like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'll lead it.
All right, thanks, Mike.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to close the Hartford Select Board and open as the Local Liquor Control Board. We will start first with the new application for Putnam Vineyard. Is Kelsey here?
Is it? I'm hoping it's a renewal.
Oh, it's not a new application.
It should not be.
Oh, that's our mistake. We thought it was a new application.
Okay.
It's actually awarded it roughly a year ago for liquor, and so this would be our 1-year renewal.
Okay, well, thank you, Kelsey, for coming. You didn't have to. So, and
Happy to be here as always.
all right. 4 members of the board, when we have renewals, we don't, ask that people come unless they'd like to. Since Kelsey is here, is there anybody who would like to ask her a question? Okay, then I will take a motion to,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I move that the Select Board approve the new application for Putnam's Vineyard LLC, doing business as Putnam's Vineyard, 188 South Main Street, WRJ, Vermont, 05001, for a 3rd-class license.
And that was Mike's motion. Is there a second?
Friendly amendment that this is a renewal rather than a new.
Okay, I would accept that friendly amendment.
And I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. So a second by Ashley. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much, Kelsey.
Thank you.
All right. The second is a renewal application for Northern Stage, 76 Gate Street, White River Junction, 05001 for a 1st-class license. Is anybody here from Northern Stage? Okay. Then I'll take a motion for the renewal application for Northern Stage.
Madam Chair, I move that the Select Board approve the renewal application for Northern Stage for a 1st-class license. That's at 76 Gates Street, White River Junction, Vermont, 05001.
Thank you, Brandon. We have a motion to renew. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mike. Mike seconds the renewal application. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that renewal passed unanimously. And we have a new application. These people were just here a short while ago. Rachel Burge and Matthew Burge, doing business as Honey Child. Would you like to identify yourself and tell us a little bit about the outside consumption?
Sure.
And you want to tell us your name and
Sure.
your residence, dear Philly.
Sure. Yeah. Matthew Burge, Rachel Burge. We live in Hartford Village, and we've been operating Honey Child Catering Company for about a year and a half. We were here at the last meeting and were approved for a first and third class liquor license. We have converted an old horse trailer into a mobile food truck. And when we were approved last time, I felt very confident coming in here that we were following the steps in order. However, upon leaving, realized, going back to the State Liquor Commission, that in order to license a food truck, we actually need an outside consumption permit. There's a little bit of a mix up on the online portal. You're not allowed to apply for that because of the ordering. If it was an established, you'd first get the license, then you'd do the outside consumption permit. So at his advice, he said, oh no, you can push right through that, all the warnings, and continue to make the application. So we did that and we're here. I thought that we had to do that post application, but it actually, because it's a horse trailer and there isn't a physical brick and mortar establishment, he needs to inspect as an outside consumption establishment because it is a trailer. As we discussed last time, there's some new members on the board, it appears, on the select board, that in order to actually take our business to any, we typically do weddings is what we're involved in. In order to do that, we would have to apply for a permit to cater at each location in each jurisdiction that we go. So we're seeking the outside consumption permit, essentially for the sake of providing the inspection of the unit, if that makes sense.
Does anybody have any questions for them?
I just have one question. So like if you had a wedding booked somewhere, you would get a permit to cater the wedding, and would that include the drinking, or is there like a special events alcohol consumption permit too?
The outside consumption permit travels with the trailer.
Okay.
And for each jurisdiction, each town or city, essentially, that we would go to, we would have to, as well as we would with Hartford, if we were providing an event here at a venue, we would have to come before the board in terms of a form on the Vermont State Liquor Commission, which you would have to approve, as well as every other town would, wherever we went.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right, I'll take a motion to consider the new application for Rachel Burge and Matthew Burge.
Madam Chair, I move that the select board approve the new application for Rachel and Matthew Burge, Honey Child LLC at 139 Hillridge Road, White River Junction, Vermont, for an outside consumption liquor license.
We have a motion from Miranda. Is there a second?
Second.
Ida, thank you for that second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Point of order, just to make sure that we're doing the process of having a discussion period after the second. I know that this is like, we're approving this, but just to
Yeah.
get in the right rhythm of yeah.
I just
Motion
thought that we
second.
had the discussion before when they had, so.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just your style, Mike, but in the past, when we've had a discussion before, there was still always a call for any discussion after the second.
That's how I would do it. Yeah,
Okay,
you know.
okay, that's fine. I'll do that too. All right. Thank you very much. I think the vote was unanimous.
Mhm.
All right. So, and thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
good luck.
Okay. And so we'll close as the Hartford Local Liquor Control Board. And because we have no local cannabis control board business, we will open as the select board. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, then we will move on. First order of business then is public comment. Remember to state your name and the village that you come from.
My name is David Briggs from White River Junction. And I'm here to comment and update you on the Coolidge Block redevelopment we refer to as the Junction House Redux. And I'm going to go fast because I have 3 minutes. And I'll give you a copy of this. The initial presentation to you on this initiative was made on January 9th, 2024, and the memo on that is attached. Please do read these notes over carefully. I bring the following comments tonight, in particular as a continuation following the most recent election of new members. So congratulations and thank you for serving. Over the past few weeks and working with the town manager, I have shifted to working more directly with Lori Hirschfield, Director of Planning and Development. To reiterate and clarify, I represent the owner of the Coolidge Block as the general partner of Northern Hospitality Limited Partnership. The initiative is to divest of the property, but specifically as a redevelopment project and not merely a sale to a highest bidder. This means the project necessarily brings in a qualified developer to merge with my pre-development efforts and bring it to fruition as a public-private product. Due to the nature of the property, which is a centerpiece location and a contributing property in an historic district, the determination has been made to execute a vision that results in preserving the prominence of the Coolidge Block, which was originated as the Junction House in 1849. The commitment is to develop the site at highest and best use, which means use of the centerpiece location both horizontally and vertically. The concept of the project is now defined by the following aspects. Main Street retail, anticipating an aggregation of artisan and convenience retailers, as well as an event center that continues the legacy of the Hotel Coolidge Event Center. There is also potential for a medical services clinic and public pedestrian spaces serving as a link between the Gates Block, the Briggs Opera House, and the Barrett Center Northern Stage parking lot. Housing to include market rate rentals as well as affordable and/or workforce housing units, the present total of which is on the order of 145 units. In addition, 2 public functions are envisioned in the form of municipally owned underground parking, infrastructure for a new downtown geothermal heating and cooling district. This project brings a new construction, mixed-use, high-density property that is intentionally an economic development project, resulting in substantial gains in the tax base, and which brings desired multipliers to enhance, stabilize, and support the established role of the central business district. At this time, a qualified developer candidate can be named and has joined the active discussions with the town of Hartford. A public-private partnership is envisioned and the enabling documentation is being drafted. It is anticipated that as landowner, I will be able to bring the developer to meet with the select board as soon as that can be scheduled. Encouragement and guidance has been received to date from Green Mountain Economic Development Corporation, Two Rivers Regional Planning Commission, the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, including the Vermont Downtown Program. All efforts are being made to bring forth a project with favored status from the beginning as a way to ensure mutual benefits and highest and best use results. I remain available to you for questions, and I'm as excited as ever.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Are there some questions people have? Brandon?
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dave, for the update. I'm wondering, I know you've said you're most interested in something like a public-private partnership. And something that comes to mind when I think of that is public input. Do you have any plans to allow sort of public comment on ideas for that block?
Well, not so much the conceptualization of the ideas, because those have been forged and confirmed by the talents and the knowledge of seasoned developers and financial people along the way. However, I have sponsored and produced 2 public forums and would gladly do more. Each of those involved about 70 people in attendance to know that I was thinking about the dramatic realities of a redevelopment project. Frankly, the specific details that are being confirmed is worthy of consideration by the developer have come out of what we think is likely to be feasible and viable. And it results in what I just characterized, which is Main Street retail and housing. It doesn't anticipate a hotel because we think that a hotel today would be tough with the numbers unless it was a boutique hotel. But we don't think a hotel that needed to get $450 a night would be consistent with, for lack of a better word, the soul of White River Junction as we experience it.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, David. Really appreciate this
Yeah,
update. Okay, is there anyone else? Is there anyone online? Okay, great. Thank you, Miranda. Okay, so then we will move on to select board comments and announcements. I'll start with Ashley. You have? Thank you.
No.
Brandon?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Mike?
I'd just like to congratulate the Hartford girls hockey team for winning their second straight Division II state title.
Nice,
I did.
I have no comments, thanks.
Thanks, Ida. Miranda? Thank you. Eric?
I'd just like to thank staff for a tour of WABA that we had on Saturday. Scott Hausler and Dana Clausen and one of the staff over there gave us a great tour, and that was very informative, so appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Scott.
Stay
I've been on
tuned.
that before.
Stay tuned. There'll be more tour opportunities as we roll through the calendar months.
Right. And John, I'm going to make an announcement. It might be in your SIG apps, but again, March 22nd, which is this Saturday, is the hybrid select board workshop. And is there anything you'd like to add if anyone is interested in attending it?
Well, I just think it's a wonderful way to both learn about the role of select boards in Vermont, but also a way for especially new select board members, but really all select board members to break bread, to chat, to get to know your neighbors in other towns who are doing the same kind of work. A lot of good intangible results come from that as well. I'm pleased to report that Miranda and Ashley will be in a car with me heading up to Montpelier on Saturday, coming and going. And we've extended that opportunity to Eric if he can figure out his dog situation. And all the other members of the select board are encouraged to join us.
although I think registration did close, but I don't know if that's flexible.
I know people at VLC.
Okay, you've got
I was gonna
it.
say, I signed up late one year and they were perfectly fine. And also the hybrid, one of the things I've noticed it in two different places. One place it says 9 until 12 and the other one it says 9 until 2:30. The first part is all the information. The second part is all the questions and answers that go all over the state.
Oh,
So,
cool.
so it's really well worth it.
I'm really excited.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on then to appointments. We have 3 reappointments and a new appointment. Are any of the reappointments here? Okay, well, let's start with not Patricia Stark, but let's go ahead.
Jeffrey Arnold, yes.
And consider the reappointment of Patricia Stark to the Historic Preservation Commission for a 3-year term beginning March 18th today and ending March 17th, 2028. Is there a motion on the floor?
Madam Chair, I move that the select board approve the reappointment of Patricia Stark to the Historic Preservation Commission for a 3-year term beginning March 18th, 2025 and ending March 17th, 2028.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
A second.
Miranda, second? Or is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the vote is unanimous. Then the next reappointment is consider the reappointment of Jonathan Schechtman to the Design Review Commission for a 3-year term beginning March 18th, 2025 and ending March 17th, 2028. I'll entertain a motion.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Miranda.
I move that the select board approve the reappointment of Jonathan Schechtman to the Design Review Commission for a 3-year term beginning March 18th, 2025 and ending March 17th, 2028.
Thank you, Miranda. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Eric, thank you for your second. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So we have a unanimous decision. And now we are going to consider the reappointment of Jeff Arnold, but he is here, so come on up, Jeff.
mainly here to support our new chair. She's doing a little show.
You want to
Later on.
identify yourself for?
Oh, my name is Jeff Arnold. I'm from Wilder.
Thanks, Tom.
I don't know, Miranda had a question and I answered it, and I might as well mention it again, that I think there should have been better landscaping around the key motors. It's a vast parking lot and should have never been grandfathered in. All the other businesses in that area have very nice landscaping in front of them. So if you as a board can do anything about putting pressure on the planning commission, I'd appreciate it. I don't have anything else to add. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Any other questions? Thank you, Jeff. Okay, I will take a motion to consider the reappointment of Jeff Arnold to the Hartford Tree Board for a 3-year term beginning March 18th, 2025 and ending March 17th, 2028.
I'll move that the select board approve the reappointment of Jeff Arnold to the Hartford Tree Board for the 3-year term beginning March 18th, 2025 and ending March 17th, 2028.
Thank you, Eric. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ashley, thank you for your second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I will take the vote. All of a sudden, sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's all unanimous. Thank you. So the last one is consider the new appointment of Linda Simon Miller to the 250th Commemoration Committee. You want to come up and introduce yourself?
So I am Linda Simon Miller from Hartford Village, Jericho District. And I missed out when my other fellow committee members came. I missed out. So I'm here. If you have any questions, I don't have any prepared remarks for you.
I understand you were in Hawaii.
I was in Hawaii.
That's a good reason to miss the meeting.
It was very important. My nephew's been in the Navy for 23 years. He's been based in Oahu and he's getting out at the end of this month. So it was now or never. So we went.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'll take a motion to appoint Linda Simon Miller to the 250th Commemoration Committee beginning March 18th, 2025 and ending September 1st, 2027 or before. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair.
I'm going to go with Ida.
Okay. I'm trying to get in here for the motion. All right. I move the select board approve the new appointment of Linda Simon Miller to the 250th Commemoration Committee beginning March 18th, 2025 and ending September 1st, 2027 or before.
Thank you, Ida. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Brandon, thank you for the second. Any further discussion? Eric?
Thanks, Chair. I had a question. In the application, Linda made a comment about public relations for the events and so forth. Is there a budget for this ad hoc committee?
We have our own budget.
Yeah, it doesn't come, I don't think it comes out of.
There's no stipend involved. That was a discussion that
Right.
the board had,
Right.
and it was a request by the applicant committee.
Well, I'm not specifically asking about the stipend, but if they're trying to do public relations, trying to do outreach for events, advertising might be a consideration, right? And it didn't know where they were getting money if they needed money for that.
I'm not aware of any appropriation. This is a relatively newly established committee, and the budget season was last fall into the
We
spring.
have money. We received a grant from the Vermont Historic Preservation, whatever.
Mhm.
Anyway, so we have some money from that. We have some money left over from the Hartford Historical Society. And our assumption was things like the July 4th fireworks, that's already covered by Parks and Rec. So that's that kind of publicity would already be covered under Parks and Rec.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Certainly, to the extent it's appropriate, we can introduce you to our communications and media specialist who could probably help with advertising as well. Yeah.
Can you take a comment from the board?
Yes, you want to come over to the podium, please? And again,
David Briggs, White River Junction. 50 years ago, when Hartford celebrated the bicentennial, I was the chairman of the Bicentennial Commission. And I've watched Linda grow up here in town. You couldn't have picked a better person.
Great, thank
I'd
you.
like to say that what came out of that effort were two notable things. One was the development of Lyman Point Park, which was literally a dumping ground, and gave way to this bandstand. And the other thing was, it was the first time in my life at that point, and by that time I was in my 30 years old, we had ever had an acknowledgement of the 4th of July. And we called it Hartford on the 4th. We had a massive field day, which sadly didn't continue on, but it was the first time we'd ever done fireworks. So the fireworks we've enjoyed as a longstanding tradition started out as that initiative.
Thank you, David, for that extra
thanks.
information. Right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we are ready for the town manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to, excuse me, pleased to report that the town's voters approved the town's proposed 2026 general fund budget by an order of magnitude of 70% plus. And it also added 13,500 to that budget in the form of an increase to the BCA per meeting compensation from $50 to $100 for a 4-hour shift or any portion thereof. This additional 13,500 will be factored in by the finance director and the select board when July tax rate setting comes due. The voters also approved the use of local option tax revenues already on hand from the rooms, meals, and alcohol taxes to purchase needed replacement vehicles for the Parks and Rec Department, Department of Public Works, and the Police Department. And that was by a vote of 76% plus. And for the purchase of new jaws of life vehicle extraction tools for the fire department, that passed with 86% support. So thank you to the voters for voting in the way that you did. The voters also adopted a 1% local option sales tax by a margin of 55% to 45%, which the State Department of Taxes has confirmed will be implemented to start on July 1st, 2025, this July 1st. For anyone with questions on how this new local sales tax might affect your Hartford business, please contact the Vermont Department of Taxes. Their number for sales tax related matters is 802-828-2551. On the Vermont Department of Taxes website, there's a helpful 3-page document explaining how the state administers local option sales taxes. There's also helpful information posted on the finance page of the town's website. Now, there is tentative good news from VLCT with regard to the 70-30 split we've been talking about. That's been in place for years, but it now looks as though a pending legislation in Montpelier could change this to an 80-20 split, with the town's collecting more of the local option tax revenues. Again, rooms, meals, alcohol, and now sales tax. It's been incorporated into the flood response bill, which is deemed a must-pass bill. So things are looking good, but stay tuned for more updates. In terms of the select board meeting schedule, the last full meeting was on Tuesday, February 25th. There was, of course, an organizational meeting on Thursday, March 6th, at which Mary Erday was elected to serve as chair, Mike Hoyt as vice chair, and Ashley Andreas as clerk. Let me take this opportunity to welcome the new members of the select board. I do plan to reach out to each of you to invite you out for a coffee or lunch to get better acquainted, and give us an opportunity to discuss your priorities for your service on the select board. There was an introductory meeting between the town team and the clerical workers union team on Wednesday, February 26th, a business excuse me, a meeting at which the union laid out some of its proposals took place on Friday, March 7th. The next meeting is scheduled to take place on March 28th. Town manager will inform the select board about these negotiations periodically in executive session. The town will celebrate the elevation of Connie Kelly to Hartford's police chief at a reception to be held in her honor on Tuesday, March 25th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Public Safety Complex. All residents and well-wishers are welcome to attend. We'd like to also mark the retirement of Chip Haley, who served the town and DPW well, along with the town residents for 33 years. He has decided to retire. We will miss him and wish him a healthy and happy retirement. I should note that the town's Code of Ethics, Investigation and Enforcement Ordinance adopted by the board on January 7th has now become law, as the 60-day period for any petitions to the contrary has elapsed without a petition being submitted. I won't mention the VLCT training because we discussed that briefly moments ago. I do want to point out that the town has been exploring the feasibility of establishing a geothermal energy district in downtown White River Junction. Recently, Dana Clausen, our environmental sustainability coordinator, secured 60 hours of time from the staff of the Oak Ridge National Laboratory through a program administered by the Department of Energy. The consensus is that it is indeed feasible to do so and to provide cheaper, greener energy to downtown buildings and their occupants, be they businesses or residents. The cost of such an initial investment would be quite substantial, and therefore the town is looking at potential partners and funding sources.
Thank you, John. Anybody have any questions for John?
May I pivot just briefly to the
Absolutely.
SIGACs? That's what I normally do, and I paused a little too long. So you might have thought I was done, but there's more, just a little more. The town clerk would like everyone to be reminded that all dogs over the age of 6 months are required by state law to be licensed before April 1st of each year, and the town clerk's office stands by to assist with that. The town police department is discussing rolling their website into the town site. This may be a multi-month process. HPD is currently on Squarespace that will not be renewed, apparently. The HPD is working with Parks and Rec to create a video for their reaccreditation process. I'm sorry, that's the communications and media specialist. They're working with Parks and Rec for a media video for their reaccreditation process. The goal is to feature town-owned park facilities and show off their offerings and departmental programming. As to the Department of Planning, they point out that we're all very thrilled to have with us Alexis Webster, who's here with us tonight. Lexi is here with us tonight. She started with the department on February 24th. So welcome to Alexis. Department of Public Works welcomes Kelsey Holmes as their new administrative assistant. DPW also attended several meetings recently that the director did. For example, with Casella Waste regarding recycling services to the town. They also met with representatives from the Solid Waste Division regarding the Household Hazardous Waste Disposal Program. Also from Department of Works, they point out that they have prepared and released a request for proposal for our residential recycling collection services. That contract with Casella comes due at the end of June, and we're hoping for multiple submissions from haulers across the area. The proposed opening date for the RFP will be March 31st. They also have at DPW recommended an individual for the vacant highway foreman position. The Highway Division points out that they've started repairing potholes around town, clearing out stormwater drains to minimize road flooding, and dealing with snow melt and related problems on our dirt roads. The DPW would also like to congratulate Randy Herron for his retirement as Assistant Chief Operator in the White River Junction Sewer Management Program, the pollution abatement plant, after his 30-year career with the town. From Parks and Rec, we have heard that the spring and summer program guide is complete and now available to the general public. They're also seeking applications for summer employment with the department, Sherman Manning Aquatic Facility, Camp Ventures, and seasonal park laborers. The job descriptions and application process can be found on the town's website under the Employment and Vacancies tab. Also, Parks and Rec points out that with the local options tax request for fundings passing, they're currently preparing an RFP for the truck and will use Sourcewell purchasing for the Workman Gator. They also point out at Parks and Rec that new handheld radios from Burlington Communications have arrived. The radios are set up to communicate with DPW channel that is monitored by Hartford Dispatch. The radios will support event communications such as the 4th of July, balloon festival parking, road and trail runs, etc. The fire department the chief points out that it's been a very busy fire response season for the HFD, and Chief Cooney wants to extend his personal heartfelt appreciation for the exceptional work everyone demonstrated as they have faced more fires than usual recently. He'd like to express his sincere appreciation for the firefighters and our fire prevention team. He thanks everybody once again for their outstanding efforts and unwavering commitment, and he advocates that they all keep up the excellent work. Finally, the police department reports that Officer Bennett initiated a significant fraud case that's now being handled by the Detectives Division, where an elderly resident was scammed out of $500,000. Intimidation and fear were key factors in this case. The investigation is ongoing, but a word to the wise, be careful. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, so now we'll move into the board report, motions and ordinances, and we will start first with the tree board update.
Can I, point of information?
Yes.
I was gonna say point of order, 'cause I think we can ask John questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Yes, please.
I have a question, which is my point of information. What did you call the document you were, the SCISA?
SIGA.
What is a SIGA?
Oh, significant activities.
Oh, okay,
So I
great.
apologize for using shorthand.
That's okay.
I will
It's a
say
good
that
one.
that's the first time that that has been spelled out in a public meeting in the last year.
Okay, look
Let
at
it be
this.
heard throughout the land.
Yeah, perfect.
Did you have a question item?
I don't, but I think.
Eric?
does.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two quick follow-ups from the past board, if I may. There was talk about, with respect to the FIP, fair and impartial policing policy, and the Hartford welcoming ordinance. In that context, there was talk about creating a work group or working group. I was wondering where that stands.
Yeah. Has not been an awful lot of forward motion on that, I have to admit. Been preoccupied with the town meeting cycle, but certainly my plan was to include, at the very least, the police chief and town's legal counsel and myself. But don't know who beyond that would be logical candidates to try to work with the state's police academy on the one hand and the AG's office on another, to try to maximize the harmony between the WHO and the police department's FIP. That would certainly be the goal. I think there's room to move in terms of making the FIP in Hartford more aligned with the WHO, and that's certainly what I'm going to be trying to do. And there's certainly a lot of research that folks like Kim Souza and others have brought to my attention. We did hear from the executive director of the academy, I believe on February 25th, laying out that they would be more than happy to sit down with us and try to work out some adjustments to our FIP that hopefully can satisfy both the legitimate concerns of the police department, who wants continued access to the academy for training and support on the one hand, with also embodying the values of the WHO on the other. So,
thank you. If there's room for influencing the constitution of that working group, I mean, I would be interested in that discussion. I mean, not advocating for myself, but
Yeah.
there are people like Kim, like the gentleman from Migrant Justice, who are, and Esme Cole, who were had a different interpretation of the conflict.
Right.
And I think having people like that in the room would be useful as well, if there's, like I said, if there's space for that to be an option.
Yeah. Thank you for that suggestion.
And that second comment or question I had was, there was discussion at some point about having board members in the room during contract negotiations with the unions. And I know that you had received some concerns maybe from, it was staff attorney or others, and I didn't know where that stood. I was unclear on if that had been resolved or not.
Yeah, and you heard me earlier state that my current intention would be to update the board with periodic updates and executive session as to how the negotiations are proceeding. I know that in the past, when contracts have been presented to the select board, it seems to some that they were simply presented with a take it or leave it kind of final product, which made some members of the select board feel maybe marginalized in terms of their input. My own impulse and history back in Pittsford was to include members of the select board in the negotiating team, only because we would then be having good ambassadors to explain the results to their fellow members of the commission, of the select board. However, I'm kind of reminded that that probably was also the case simply because there were no other natural members of the negotiating team. And certainly it was the case that they were silent partners in my experience in Pittsford. Simply observing, I did most of the talking on behalf of the town. Here in Hartford, we've got a more robust negotiating team, which consists of myself, the HR director, Scott Hausler from Parks and Rec, and our attorney, Brian Monahan, who has, I think, helped the town negotiate several previous union contracts with town staff. And so I do believe that we'll be able to move the process forward with alacrity and hopefully some degree of skill. The consensus seemed to be from our team, including the attorney, that select board actual presence in the room might play something of a chilling effect, only because staff typically deals with the town manager as their report, not the select board. And one of the things I think we'll hear at Saturday's select board training is that that's a line that needs to be maintained to the extent possible. The chain of command where staff deals with the town manager, and the town manager is kind of the conduit between staff and the select board. So for, I guess, that variety of reasons, my current plan, unless the board wants to take steps to countermand it in some way, would be that I find a way to give you all periodic updates, again, in executive session, so as not to broadcast sensitive, delicate talks back and forth.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is that enough?
Yes, that's satisfactory. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, John.
Mhm.
Are we ready to move on? I don't want to usurp your time, John.
Oh, I'm perfectly fine.
All right. Okay, thank you. So we are back to the tree board update.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Jasmine Gaia. I'm from Hartford. Like most of you, I am newly appointed as the chair of the Hartford Tree Board. Jeff was the chair before me. So I'm here to talk about what happened in 2024 and a little bit about what our plans are for 25. So if you want to start. So where this all kind of started, we have a whole bunch of planting activities that happen throughout the year, and that's really down to us being able to meet the Vermont Urban and Community Matching Grant that we had in 2023. So in 2024, we put the boots on the ground. We had 78 rootstock available, nursery, which helped us with the annual sale during the Arbor Day sale. We removed more than 300 square feet of invasives. So this is along Bridge Street, Lyman Point Park and the jug handle by the school. We planted more than 20 trees. We had yellow birch, Kentucky coffee, sycamore, katsura, just to name a few that we planted. We also planted over 40 shrubs, so including nannyberry and arrowwood as well. And we planted a memorial tree, which I'll touch a little bit more on that as we move forward in the presentation. We also worked on drought watering last year as well, as we were caught in a lot of the drought, and the newly planted trees were not doing so well. The next piece is part of the board's vision is to be a true tree stewardship. So promoting education, tree plantings, maintenance, ecological awareness, all while enhancing the visual beauty of the town. So we did this in a few ways. So we conducted tree walks. We attended several different conferences. At the Mix and Mingle, we were a presenter with other reps that really focus on our conservational efforts. We also attended the Vermont Urban and Community Forestry Conference up at VTC. So this is actually where we were able to receive our 24th annual USA Tree City designation, which is very exciting. We also held our Arbor Day tree sale on 5/5. We used rootstock from our nursery, and we also purchased plants from Northern Nurseries, and we made about $1,600. On the next slide, we have some updates on Lyman Point Park. So there's lots of activities this year. One, we planted a memorial tree, which is a hackberry tree, in memorial of Linda Wilson. And the board donated $300 towards this tree. And we also placed a plaque at the base of the tree as well for her. We also had additional work days. So this was raising the canopy, removing knotweeds and other invasives along the bank, placed plastic barriers, and removed and planted trees throughout. This is also a location for one of our tree walks as well. So this is Lyman Point Park, some of the work days. So this is some of our teams. And the one to the very end is it completely cleared out, which is a huge difference than a fellow community member said it used to be a dump. So looks much better. Next slide. So part of the education is that we did tree walks. So we did one at the Lyman Point Park with the Upper Valley Food Co-op. We also did the Veterans Administration, and we did the Hartford Point Cemetery. Next slide, we have a few pictures of our Hartford Point Cemetery walk. We had a great turnout this year. In addition to the tree walk, we also had all sorts of movement with our board members. So me, obviously, I'm here and I'm new. I'm the chair. Mike Kopp is the vice chair. And Gail Crowell left us this year. We greatly appreciate all of the time and resources that she put in the last few years to the board. And finally, for 2025, we have several different focuses for this year. Of course, continue education. So we're really going to look at enhancements. So really partnering with the schools and other local groups, get more educational material out to the community, and then look for other opportunities outside of the tree walks to really explore those avenues. We're going to continue with our conference attendance. We have our Arbor Day sale coming up, so hold the state. It is 5/3, the first Saturday of May. We are also going to continue to look for grant opportunities to plant more trees in the town. Are also going to get organized with our projects and hopefully look for volunteers throughout the community and get that out. So that is what I have. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, of course.
Well, also welcome as a chair. Congratulations. Thank you for taking that on. Where do you hold the Arbor Day sale? I didn't know that this was a thing, and I'm excited.
Right in this parking lot. So right in
It's
this
here?
corner right here. Yep.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just real quickly, only because when I lived in Hanover, I was on the biodiversity committee. Do you ever think about, I know it's a different state, but do you ever think about maybe combining, maybe once a year getting together with other groups? Because the biodiversity committee that I was on in Hanover, we did extensive mapping of Japanese knotweed along Girl Brook, and because of the way it was spreading as the water came down. And I was just wondering, they just once a year type of thing of getting together. I don't even know if Lebanon, maybe somebody else knows if they have something like this where, you can talk with each other and find out what works and what doesn't work, how you can explore getting the word out more. I don't know if that's, I know you're busy. I mean, I know that for a fact, but I was just wondering, considering, I'm thinking about all the same things we were doing there that you're
Absolutely.
doing here. And I just thought might be nice to do something like that.
I think we definitely should be exploring and looking at those different options, especially like with the mix and mingle and being able to really work and get to know like the local people who are really focused on these efforts. So being able to come together and trying to figure out that. I know the Lebanon has tree warden, so there's a possibility that we can kind of bridge that gap as well.
Great, thank you. And I know Eric had a question.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your work. Thanks to the entire tree board. I have a couple questions, and you're more than welcome to say we'll get back to you on that or something like that. So the first question is about constraints. You mentioned looking for grant opportunities, looking for volunteer labor. I was wondering if the town said, hey, we really want to plant more trees, where do you think you're constrained? Is it with funding? Is it with volunteer labor? Or are there other things like the availability of good sites or suitable sites? And again, you don't have to answer that right off, the cuff, but.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. Right now we're getting organized. So part of the goal for 2025 is to kind of get organized and to see what projects we do have and don't have and kind of look for those opportunities. So I think to answer your question, I think we need a little bit more time and we can definitely get you a more definitive answer for that.
Yeah, I think that would be that. I would certainly appreciate that. And my second question has to do with monitoring. I was wondering, urban trees or trees in the urban environment are susceptible to a lot of different stresses and strains. And I was wondering whether the tree board does anything to monitor like success rates after, the first year, after 5 years, after 10 years, and so on. And the reason I sort of raised that question is you're probably aware of the use of things like biochar to increase the success of tree plantings in urban environments and so on. And there's quite a bit of research on that. And I was wondering if you're sort of monitoring success and looking for ways to improve the plantings.
So I am brand new, so I'll probably have to divert to the rest of the committee, and I can definitely get an answer for you on that as a follow-up as well.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
And, I can just answer a question about biochar because there's a row of honey locusts that are past the hotel near Hartford Point Cemetery. There's like 9 of them, and they're in bad shape. So I plan on air spading them and putting biochar down, and then you have to water them prior to doing that, and then water them afterwards. But one of the problems we had last summer was that I wanted to water the trees downtown, and I used the town vehicle, thinking that it was all right, and I was told that I couldn't do that. And the town, Public Works don't have the time to water the trees. So I thought as a volunteer, we could do it and use the vehicle, because they have a vehicle with a big water tank on it. And we ran into some trouble with that, and I'm not sure what the final conclusion was.
It's a good point. I don't think we reached one, but we certainly said we were going to look into it. VLCT gave us some guidance about having town equipment operated by non-town staff. So thank you for the reminder, and I'll follow up with you.
Because I am insured.
Okay.
No, I'm not personally insured, but insured by the town.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you for bringing it back to my attention.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Brent?
I suppose I had one quick question. You mentioned watering last year of the new trees that were, what do you call them, installed, planted. Have you ever tried to use those like bags that are specifically, you wrap around the trunk and that water gradually?
Yeah, we have a lot of those bags.
Okay.
There again, you have to fill the bags up with water, and the bags are good because they drain out slowly and provide water to the trees. The problem is we don't have the infrastructure to fill them up.
Yeah.
But the town does, and if they would share it with us, we can do it.
Thank you, Jeff.
I just as a general comment, I'll mention that trees are not primarily decoration in my mind and in the mind of many. I remember there was a study about 15 years ago that if there are 8 trees on the block on which you live, it provides a kind of psychological boost equivalent to $20,000 a year in greater salary. So like they actually have quantified the boost of that extra money to your paycheck, and they've quantified the boost of the trees, and that's the equivalent. So it's actually worth quite a lot if we talk about trees as like worth to us, right? But obviously many more ways to value them. Lots of savings on your air conditioning, for instance, if it is shading your house.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
service, and thank you for the
Yes, thank you.
presentation. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on to the approval of banking signature authority.
Yes, Madam Chair, the Finance Director has asked that we update the approvals for both Mascoma Bank and the Vermont Bond Bank and US Bank. When there's a change in leadership, for example, it requires updated signature specimens and votes by the full board to authorize certain members of the select board to sign on behalf of the town. And so that's what these twin sets of motions are all about.
Is the motion made to include both of them, or individually, the Mascoma Bank separate from the Vermont Bond Bank?
I think separate makes sense, and we put them on separate bullets under 5B of the agenda, and there is a separate motion for each.
Okay, so do we need the motion for signatory on reimbursements? That goes with the second motion.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
The memos from Gail
Okay.
contain the motions as well as the agenda.
So I'd like to entertain a motion for the select board authorization for Mascoma Bank. Is there anyone who'd like to make that motion? Eric?
Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I move that the select board authorize Mascoma Bank to remove Michael Hoyt from all depository accounts and add board chair Mary Erdai.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Is there a second on the motion? I didn't hear. Oh, Miranda, sorry. Thank you. And Miranda seconded the motion. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous. And so the second motion is to approve that the select board authorize the following individuals for Vermont Bond Bank and US Bank reimbursement requests and callbacks. And so there is a list of signatory on reimbursements: Mary Erdai, board chair; Michael White, vice board chair; Joseph Major, town treasurer; John Haverstock, town manager; for callbacks, Gail Ostrov, finance director; Florentina Rollins, AP and payroll manager; and Carrie Thibodeau, finance specialist. Is there a motion on the floor for this? Eric, thank you.
I move that the select board authorize the following individuals for the Vermont Bond Bank and US Bank reimbursement requests and callbacks. For signatory on reimbursements, Mary Erdai, board chair; Michael Hoyt, vice board chair; Joseph Major, town treasurer; John Haverstock, town manager. For callbacks, Gail Austrout, finance director; Florentina Rollins, AP and payroll manager; and Carrie Thibodeau, finance specialist.
Thank you, Eric. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Brandon. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you all. Okay, so the next one is, we're going to approve the fire department strategic plan and standards of cover community risk assessment, and Chief Cooney is here to give us a little bit of information, as well as I'm sure all of you looked at the packet, and there was a lot in the packet.
I'll be brief because I buried you in paperwork. But welcome to all the new board members, and thank you for your commitment to the community as well. Look forward to getting to know you. I'm pleased to share that the Hartford Fire Department has successfully completed the assessment process of accreditation through the Centers for Public Safety Excellence. We're now scheduled to appear before the Commission on Fire Accreditation International at their meeting on April 1st in Orlando, Florida. This marks an important milestone for our agency as our previous accreditation expired in 2024. And we spent the last year and a half preparing for this reaccreditation. The accreditation process involves three key components: the development of a community-driven strategic plan, a self-assessment, and a standards of cover and community risk assessment. Upon completing these, we submitted them for review to the commission. After approval, we were assigned an evaluation team composed of a team leader and 3 assessors from fire departments across the country that are accredited agencies as well. They came from North Carolina, Virginia Beach, Fargo, North Dakota, and from the U.S. Department of Defense. The team conducted an in-depth 4-day review in this last fall, examining documents, policies, and procedures, while also interviewing department members and community stakeholders. Following their review, the evaluation team provided us with valuable recommendations. They recognized our department as a credible organization and recommended us for accreditation. One of their recommendations was for the town's elected body to formally adopt our department's strategic plan and standards of cover document. This is why I'm here tonight, and I request your support in adopting these critical documents. I'm happy to answer any questions if you've all read that. It's a lengthy document, but thank you.
It's open for discussion. Anybody have some questions for Chief Cooney?
I'll just make a comment that thank you for all the work that you and the rest of the department has put into that. It's a really great piece of information, and I wasn't able to get through every single page, but that's all I was really going to comment, was that I was able to, from what I was able to get through, it's really fascinating and really informative. And I wish I had had a little more time. We got it Friday, and
Oh, sure.
I trust that you have done a great job with it, but I'm excited to read more and just see what comes of the rest of the accreditation process.
Excellent. Thank you. And I couldn't, obviously, this was a team effort. We're a small agency. I think we might be one of the smallest agencies accredited. There's only less than 350 agencies nationwide that have done the process. So I'm very proud of the organization for sure.
And actually, that does bring one question I thought of when going through it. And it might have mentioned this in the report, but what are some of the benefits other than the self-reflection and kind of goal setting? Why do you think it's important for Hartford to get this accreditation?
So the whole purpose of accreditation really is to force an agency through continuous improvement practices, right? So annually, we have to go through the process of doing a compliance report based on the previous year's accreditation. So we're always looking at what we're doing as far as our response times to the community, how we're affecting change based on recommendations we've had previously. And then on these 5-year cycles, it really drives the organization to do a gap analysis, right? And see where we're missing in the community. I mean, recently you could use the Station 2 project as an example, how that migrated over that was about a 3.5-year process from testing, staffing in a different location to kind of equalize our response time around the community, to coming to the town with a bond recommendation and vote for a new fire station, which is close to being done. So you guys will get to do a grand opening here pretty soon, I hope. But yeah, awesome. It's things like that brings it to the community. Another thing would be, reflecting on how we're providing EMS services and seeing the impact of what a community nurse might do for the community. And it brought things like that to the community.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chief, how long have you been doing this? When was the initial assessment done?
So this is my second time appearing before the commission as the fire chief. The agency began the accreditation process back in 2004 under then Chief John Wood. And fire chiefs since then have continued the process, seeing the benefit it does to the agency.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Sure, I have a question. Thank you, Chief Cooney. Just noticing one of the goals as part of your strategic plan to improve the mental and physical health of the members of your staff, and just knowing what your staff has been through in the last few weeks, responding to some serious events, and one including a fatality of a member of a neighboring town. I'm curious just if you could share for the public just how you support your staff in the immediate aftermath of responding to serious incidents.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the hardest part of the job. We see people in their worst time, and we're expected to be our best in those scenarios. So we recognize the mental health and PTSD is real, and I came from a generation where it was a stiff upper lip is the way that you handled those, but it doesn't work. And we have evidence of that work, and we've lost staff because of PTSD from that not working. So this year's budget has passed, and in that budget, as well as funding that we have in the current budget to support mental health and well-being, is contracting with an agency that providing services to our staff. Right now, we have an agreement with Alice Bechdey Hospital and Trivium Life Services for a EMDR PTSD counselor, of which I'm going to myself. So the staff is just being introduced to that process, and all thumbs up, people are accepting it quite well. So looking forward to continuing that process in this budget year that starts on July 1st, and then hopefully into the future.
Great. Thank you. I especially understand the EMDR. I was in a car accident and someone recommended that a long time ago, but still, even though I tried to practice it and it was fine for a while, it does come back.
It sure does. Yeah.
Brandon, did you have your hand up?
Right, thank you. Speaking of things that were in the budget, if I remember right, something that was not in the budget was furniture for the new station. How's that coming along? Do you need any help?
So I don't think so yet. I've been talking to the town manager and the finance director, and as we approach the end of this fiscal year, we get looking hard at the budgets on where we're balancing between salary savings and things like that townwide. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to make up the difference at this point, but I'll be the first to tell the town manager for now.
We'll hold a bake sale.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Chief Cooney, for you and to you and all your team for these documents. In particular, all of the quantitative analysis and the standards of cover is very impressive. I like it a lot, and I think it's going to be really useful. There's a section where near the end where you're listing performance data based on calls.
Yeah.
And it's followed by benchmarks and so on. And I just found that that would be, and maybe you have it this way, but that would be useful in one table to be able to look at for each metric. Here's what we're performing at, and here's the benchmark that we're aiming at. I had to create my own little table as I was scrolling up and down through the document. So minor nitpick about an impressive document, but on the strategic document, I did have another question. Obviously, there's a significance in that it highlights the significance of gathering data and perspectives from the public. And in the appendices, I think it's page 9, you show us a pie chart, include a pie chart that shows the representation of business, community groups, education, healthcare, local government, public safety, and so on. What I am unclear on is the methodology for how the department went about selecting those people who were interviewed.
Sure. It was a lot was done by me and the team at CPSC that we hired to do it. I provided them access to some of the email groups I'm members of, one of them being the Hartford Community Coalition. I figured it was probably the biggest net I could cast to garner interest, and that's basically the list I used to reach out, knowing that there are a lot of engaging partners that are involved in that Hartford Community Coalition that I can entice participation in the community planning session.
Okay, I just, I wonder the next time around, what is it, in 5 years or so? Whether the group that helped you, consultants or whoever they were, have a more refined methodology that they can share. Because it's, I mean, you're basically doing data collection.
Yeah.
And anytime you're doing data collection, you're selecting a sample. And it's important to understand how you decided what to sample. All of the interviewees, I know most of them, and they obviously are good sources of information. But in terms of methodological perspective, it seems I have some questions about it.
Sure, and we did too. It was hard to capture. I think we saw it too. I don't know if you followed the progression of the town's safety review committee and the survey that went out for the town safety. Can't remember them.
Community safety study.
The community safety study. I think they experienced the same thing. I think we only captured like 1% of the community in that statistical analysis of safety in the community as well. We struggled somewhat with membership. I know I put out a lot of queries for this session, and we got, but you saw the list.
Right, okay.
That was there. But yes, no, I would agree, more data would be better for more conclusive results, for sure.
Maybe more numbers, but also, I look at the pie chart and I'm like, well, there was 1 from business. How did you arrive at 1 from business? Why wasn't it 2 or
Sure.
4 or the relative relationships between those different segments? I would think that there should be an answer to the why to be, in a methodology would explain that, but I don't want to belabor that. I do have a few other questions for you, if I may.
Yeah.
If you can make them so that we've got people here waiting, so.
In the covers of, is it called covers of standard?
Standard cover.
Standard cover, thank you. On page 15, there's housing data. And there's nothing in there. There's a blank or 0 in there for RV, van, and etc. And I was wondering if that was because you're relying on census data. I was wondering if you could combine data streams, like using the point in time analysis for homeless housing, unhoused people.
We probably could. I think we use just census data alone to calculate those.
Yeah, which isn't going to have.
Yeah, right.
So it obviously is important. You mentioned it elsewhere in the document. And so that's, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cooney. This is great. A lot of hard work. Okay, I think we are ready to make a motion for the select board adopting the 2024-2029 Hartford Fire Department Strategic Plan and the 2024 Hartford Fire Department Standards of Cover Community Risk Assessment. So, entertain a motion. Okay,
I move that the select board adopt the 2024-2029 Hartford Fire Department Strategic Plan and the 2024 Hartford Fire Department Standards of Cover Community Risk Assessment.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Ida, thank you. Any other discussion before we move? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the vote is unanimous. Again, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we move on then. Is Chris Holt? While Chris is getting set up, John, I don't know if there's a reminder or just to inform people. I don't know if like Gail is on at all, but I know that sometimes people look at, because there's going to be some funds taken out of the fund for 2026 as funds. So we talked about this before, but I think people need to be reminded on the board. You know, is that okay to do this since we're on 25's budget?
Oh, you're talking about the timing of purchases and
Yeah.
all that, yes. Certainly Gail does have access to the meeting or the minutes of the meeting. And I certainly am taking notes, and if I see things that I need to bring to her attention, I certainly will do
Okay,
that.
because it's in the motion, so
Yeah.
for.
So I'm gonna just inject here.
Okay, no, actually,
These
I'm
memos
glad.
did go to Gail. for
Okay,
approval.
super. I wanted to make sure, because I know that has come up before, and I know that, you know, just thought people might not know any background information on that. Great. Thank you, Chris. Take it away.
All right, so the first memo you have before you is for Country Lane. It's for engineering and erosion issue that was part of the 2023 storm event, FEMA event. I'm not going to fully give you the history. It's long, it's winded, it's messy with FEMA, so forth. We did try to procure engineering services at a reasonable rate and a scope of work that would be covered by FEMA. We were unsuccessful with our pre-qualified engineers due to the event going on and the demand for services. We did at that time look outside of our engineers, and again, the event and the amount of services that were being provided by the local engineers to communities such as Ludlow, which were much harder hit than us, limited availability. Following up after we got confirmation from FEMA that the one bid we received was outside of an allowable scope because it involved a repair with retaining walls and so forth, really an over-engineered project for this rural location. We reached out to a local engineer seeking a more traditional methodology of repair for a rock slope on this site. They modeled their proposal after a project in Norwich. FEMA will not say yes or no, but they did agree that it was much more reasonable and in keeping with what they would expect. So that is the competitive part, that we actually found an engineer willing to work on the project and not overinflate the scope of work. I will remind you, we've already received a check for $82,000, I believe it is, for this project. So there is funds in hand for this project. At the end of the day, we have to cover our small share out of our own funds. And that $82,000 is subject to being amended and revised once we have accurate cost estimates for the construction. So it's not like we only have $82,000 and we're cut off. We have confirmed with FEMA, we are allowed to get the actual estimates and adjust our budget for what they will reimburse. I will say it is artificially low due to FEMA misrepresenting the allowable repair, and they're aware of that.
Are there any questions from the board for Chris?
A question.
Ashley?
I just wanted to make sure I understood that the scope that we were looking at with pathways, that is for just the engineering and design of the repair, and then like our highway department would complete the
Our
work, or
highway
that
department would not be capable of completing this. We would put it out to bid.
Okay.
That's part of the scope of work they will be doing, is giving us the estimating plans and the work to go out.
Great, thank you.
Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I saw that, Chris, that you fielded some questions on this topic, but I'm still not sure I'm quite clear. Your RFQ process is specific to a project?
No, our RFQ is so it's for many reasons. So when you get like a clean water state revolving fund loan, you don't put it out to bid, your project out to bid. You do an RFQ process. You have to try to negotiate a contract with the most qualified engineer. So part of that RFQ process, it's also how you determine who you work with and go out to bid on other projects, because there's requests for qualifications, right? Which is just proving a firm is qualified to work for you. Then there are requests for bids, and this is unique to when we contract for professional services. And so depending on the lending agency and so forth, you may have to work with the most qualified individual, try to develop a reasonable budget for it with them. Coincidentally, like when we're working with the state revolving fund loan and we're going after drinking water loans or grants, right? They have to be from that qualified list, right? And they actually, we're going to be coming to you for one for asset management for our water systems, for instance, where we will get the water systems mapped, right? On that one, they actually, the consultant right now is negotiating with the state, the amount, the scope of services. So professional services are a little bit different. You're really dependent on the qualifications of the firms, the individuals working on your project, because you don't always get what you pay for. If you pay cheap on professional services, you might get what you pay for, right? So it's a little bit different thinking. So the competitiveness of that sometimes it's a little bit different from I'm going to put out to bid apple to apple on a Cadillac. So you approach it differently. So in this case, the town, and we will renew before June 30th, our list of pre-qualified engineers based on the performance that they've been doing over the past year for us. And we do that up to 5 years. We recently added a fourth because the engineering market out there is very competitive for the services and very hard to line them up right now. So in this case, we have our qualifications all in hand, 4 of them. We then put the project out to bid to them. So you don't have to go through the public process that can take a month or 2 of trying to get all the qualifications together and get people to prove, they're a good fit for the project. You've already done it for all your water resources, stormwater, water supply, wastewater, so forth. So in this case, it's a drainage issue with erosion. We put it out to them. There's been, since COVID, a lot of shift in firms of personnel. Geotechnical engineers have been a large retirement. Certain fields are gotten very limited. So 3 of the firms chose not to bid on this. The geotechnicals, if they do have them, are lined up for a year or 2 years worth of work. They didn't want to partake. The one we did have has the upper hand and very conservative geotechnical. Their repair was more than what FEMA's going to allow for a repair. Hence, we looked at a local engineering firm who's done a lot of FEMA work in Norwich and some other communities using a more traditional rock slope, standards. These are the standards, applying them, and that FEMA is comfortable with. So.
Okay, thank you. I guess when I first read the memo, I just thought Pathways had a price that was a third, I think roughly of the qualified firm. Wouldn't it be nice if Pathways was pre-qualified? And wouldn't that sort of simplify things? And maybe you can consider that sort of just a rhetorical comment.
Pre-qualified lists last time. They may make it if we reevaluate.
Okay.
But the scope of services, I'll just leave it at that. Time will tell.
Okay.
If we add them.
Thank you.
One other question. Actually, so is the proposal that the larger firm gave that FEMA wasn't okay with, is that really like the repair that we should have? And a standard repair is not as great, but it's what we can afford? So
let me put it in context. This is a public road that serves at this location 1 residence, 1 house.
Okay.
If we were to go down that avenue, you'd probably be looking at another $1 million+ bond vote.
Enough said. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Chris? All right, I'll entertain a motion dealing with the country lane erosion report. So is there anyone who would like to make that motion? Eric?
Madam Chair, thank you. I move that the select board waives section 3.6 of the purchasing policy and authorize the town manager to execute a scope of services agreement with Pathways Consulting LLC utilizing up to $43,489.70 of existing FEMA funds received for this project and $978.30 from FY 26 GL 10-325-318-4 zeros.
Thank you, Eric. Is there a second?
A second.
Miranda is second. And any other discussion? Will we take a vote? All right. Take your vote now. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? So it is unanimous. All right, Chris, you're on to the next one.
All right, so the next project, it's a, put it this way, it's a state mandated project. And I will note, you have the memo there. Anytime you see the blue in the memo, I have embedded hyperlinks if you want to, as board members or even past members, get educated on a particular item. There are hyperlinks there for you. So to ensure that we get compliance or stay in compliance with the municipal roads general permit that we are part of, the state has a road inventory and erosion inventory that we must basically reassess the roads by the end of the summer of 2027. To date, the road inventory has been mostly done by Two Rivers Ottaquechee Regional Commission. They have staff, including our former highway superintendent, who's very knowledgeable of our roads, who have completed it in the past. And so basically, we're asking for permission to basically fully execute the grant by contracting with them for this $20,000 endeavor, which will be responsible for $4,000. It's not really possible to walk all our roads with an engineer or another firm who doesn't have the knowledge of every 300 feet of road and be competitive at all with this price. This is a public service at a discounted rate for us. So if you want more detail, I'll give you more detail.
Are there any questions for Chris? Or we make this motion? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion on the Better Roads Grant.
Madam Chair.
Brandon?
I move that the select board authorizes the town manager to execute an agreement with the Two Rivers Regional Commission utilizing up to $16,000 from highway engineering reserves, GL code number 25-985-100-0300 to be reimbursed, and $4,000 from fiscal year 26 GL code 10-325-318 and 4 zeros.
Okay, we have a second from, oh, excuse me. We have the motion from Brandon. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ashley, thank you. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that is unanimous. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And so we are going to recess as a select board and open as a public hearing for this next section.
A moment to
That's fine.
get hooked up here.
You're looking for an outlet?
Yeah, I'm just-
Okay. Slide down. Go with it if you want.
People are on, but nobody's raised their hand. Yeah, we are gonna take a break after. Section.
Madam Chair. Also, I just wanted to mention, maybe we could even do this at the top of the meetings, but for anyone in the room, in case you don't know, the code to the bathrooms is written on the back chalkboard thing.
8624, it's pretty light from here. Yeah.
All right, you may be a presenter. Okay.
So.
Any sense of how many people? Okay. All right, I want to upload a amount, and I'm always a little bit unsure about how to do this, but I want to bring up a document.
Screen share or share?
Yeah, I'm looking for that, and I'm not seeing it. Let me try this again, if I can get this a little bit. Here it is. Under the more. Here it is. Okay. Staying it there. Yeah, I have it open. I have it open. It's right here.
Is that mouse got any traction on top of that slippery surface?
Okay, let's try that again. Okay. And then I do the screen share, right? Go into here and do screen share. Oh, here it is. Okay, got it. That is, there we go. Okay. And I want to get that larger. That is. Sorry, I don't do this much. So. Let me see what we can do here.
Andrew is signaling you.
I know, I need to get this out of my view.
You've got it super sized.
No, I really don't know that. Okay, let's get that down.
I didn't know if you feel that big.
Yeah, I didn't either. One of those things.
I think
Okay,
right
here we
there in the
go.
middle is probably gonna be a good spot. Yeah, there
There
you
we go. All right, I want to get rid of the other one on the top. So again, I'm not an expert at doing this. I can do it real well in Teams, but not so much here. Do you have anybody want to give me a recommendation here on how to get rid of the screen above? I just
Yeah,
want to
if
get.
you scroll down here by pulling that, pushing on that.
Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of all the top stuff here, though.
Oh, up of that, yeah, if you want to,
The header stuff.
It's that little arrow.
The little arrow.
The little arrow on the right side near the top. Yeah, that one.
Down.
Oh, just above that, the arrow pointing up.
There we go. I'm not seeing an arrow pointing up. Is the problem? Everything's pointing down. All right, let's
No,
go
it's
on
hidden.
here.
That's what I do, just yell.
All right. Usually I don't have this problem, but
And I think you can make it even
There you go.
bigger, and once you do, it's just scroll.
and then we'll just, but I can't get rid of all this.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we don't see it, but you. do.
Well, but it's, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I'm just trying to make it larger. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of a brief intro to this as we're going along here. Just to let you know, some of you saw this the last time because we were here about a month ago in order to decide whether or not you wanted to have a public hearing. So this evening is a public hearing, and it's the focus of it is a Vermont Community Development Block Grant. That must come through a municipality. That is the way the program works through the state. It's federal dollars. And in that regard, there are many criteria that need to be met in order to apply for a grant and also use a grant. This is an implementation grant. And at this point, our target is the funding of a 48-unit multifamily dwelling, of which pretty much all of it is going to meet the state requirements. VCDP is one of multiple funding sources for this project. What I'm going to do is you have a process. You've opened your public hearing formally. Well, this is a public hearing, so it means we want to hear from the public and get them to give input on it. Then you'll close your public hearing, and then you will actually open up your meeting again. And then you'll go into the next agenda item, which is to have a specific discussion whether or not you should go forward with this application to the Vermont Community Development Program at the state. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to Andrew Winter, who is the Executive Director of Twin Pines Housing Trust and is one of the entities that is working on the development of this project.
Thank you very much, Lori. And again, Andrew Winter, for the benefit of the new board members. For the old board members, this is going to look very familiar. It is essentially the same PowerPoint that you saw last month when we were before you, looking for scheduling this meeting and this hearing. So, just briefly, this $1 million is part of the financing that we're seeking for a 48-unit project, and the 48-unit project is enabling 194 units of market rate housing that are going up on Sykes Mountain Avenue. So they're very much interrelated, but this is the first, this is the affordable housing piece of the housing to go up on Sykes Mountain Avenue. And again, it is part of that larger Black Rock development. So the project developers are Twin Pines Housing Trust, focused or located here in White River, along with Evernorth, who is our co-developer. Evernorth is a nonprofit out of Burlington. They have worked with Twin Pines over the years on projects, including the recent Riverwalk project, just on the other side of the railroad tracks. And we have been together with Evernorth, recipients of CDBG funding for other projects. So once this project's finished, it'll be managed by Twin Pines, as we have done with many of our other recent projects. So the site location is actually right off Sykes Mountain Avenue, across from the Subaru dealership. You might have seen a sign up there that said parcel for sale for development. And that is where we're looking at. And again, it is a site that is great because it's on town water, town sewer, public transportation, and on public sidewalk as well. So a little bit about Twin Pines for those of you who are newer board members. We're a nonprofit organization. We're celebrating our 35th anniversary this year. We have 665 rental units in the Upper Valley, primarily in Hanover, Lebanon, and Hartford, with additional units in Woodstock and in Enfield. We also have a home ownership program, and we have a number of homes that we steward in perpetuity, keeping them affordable for the initial buyer as well as for subsequent buyers. And we provide housing for a range from family, multifamily properties that are focused for seniors to housing for the homeless and veterans. This project is focused on what we would call general occupancy housing, like the Riverwalk project. There'll be some units set aside for different populations, some housing for veterans, some housing for folks who are homeless, but it's really designed to serve a range of family sizes. So we've got studios, 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units, but it's also designed to serve a real range of incomes as well. So I'll kind of go through that as we go through. So we're working with Evernorth, as I mentioned earlier, a partner that we've worked with on other projects, including Wentworth, which is another project on Sykes Mountain Avenue, as well as Riverwalk and the Hartford Scattered Sites project, which was a multifamily project that we did about 10 years ago, where we were doing some smaller buildings in Hartford. They bring development capacity, financing expertise, and access to capital. So that's why we work with Evernorth. As I mentioned, a recent collaboration was the Riverwalk project. That was 42 units completed last year. And again, very similar to what we're talking about with this project. We're also busy doing projects in other communities. I just mentioned that. Sometimes the question comes up. We're doing a senior housing project in Woodstock this year. We'll be breaking ground on that. And we're also working on a workforce housing project in New London with 60 units. So a little bit about Sykes Mountain Avenue. As I mentioned, it's all part of a master plan. BlackRock has been, which is a partnership between a local developer, Simpson Development, as well as another developer to build 194 units of market rate housing. They're developing their housing at the upper portion of the site, and then Twin Pines and Evernorth will develop the 48 units down here. We are, because this subdivided parcel is large enough, we actually do have the potential to add 24 additional units in the future. That's allowed under zoning. We'd have to go through the permitting process and get site plan approval from the town. But this is just for the first 48 units that we're looking for this grant at this time. But you can see access off of Sykes Mountain Avenue. And I know that I believe it's next month, the folks from BlackRock will be coming in to talk about access to the site as part of the, I want to call it condemnation process, but realignment process, probably a better use of the term there. So thanks for that. So what we're planning here is a 4-unit building, again, mix of studios, 1s, 2 bedroom and 3 bedroom units, a range of incomes, units at what we would describe as very low, and sort of more moderate income units. With outside space, community amenities, as well as 54 parking spaces. Yes.
There is this is the one point where you did change it into an 80%.
Yeah, it's 80%.
Am I?
Yeah, so that was a change. So your package mentions the 80% units. That is correct. The PowerPoint is not correct. Thank you for catching that. What does this mean when we talk about 30, 50, 60, 80% of area median income? It's actually changes every year. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development sets the income limits county by county for Vermont. Different where there's big cities, but in Vermont, we do it on a county by county basis, and they base it on family size. So again, single person, 2-person, 3-person, 4-person household. So we're looking to serve folks who make less than 21,000 all the way up to folks in a family of 4 in an 80% unit making up to 80,000. So it's a range of incomes that we're looking to serve with this project. So our request to you today is to support this application. If you wouldn't mind scrolling up just a little bit. Thank you so much. For a $1 million application for CDBG funding to the Vermont Community Development Program as I said, for $1 million. The application needs to go in from the town in April, and I think we're expecting to have a word on funding in June. We are in the process of trying to obtain other grants and other funds, including low-income housing tax credits. Right down here, we've submitted to the Vermont Housing and Finance Agency, and we're hoping to get an allocation of tax credits in April. And that is going to be the biggest and one of the most competitive parts of this funding. But this application for CDBG is an important part of it as well. So with that, I'm happy to take questions, although I recognize that this is an opportunity for the public to answer questions or ask questions. So turn it back to the chair.
I guess we'll start with if there are any select board questions or comments directed towards Chris. But, and then is there anyone on? Not yet. Okay.
We do have, Matt Moore from Evernorth is on, so if there is a technical question that I can't answer, I try to make sure I have all of the technical ones down, but if there is a question I can't answer as well. So.
Mike?
I don't have a question, just a comment. I think this is like a really great project. We need this kind of housing in the Upper Valley. We need both, housing at market rate for people who work at the college, the hospital, other places, and we need to increase our affordable housing. And out of this, we're getting both in a place that's where there is development, so we're not just like chewing up open fields, things like that. This idea of density and then having a community of mixed incomes, especially a large one, I think that's really important. And I kind of think of this as like the way that the Upper Valley should do these kind of developments. Now, of course, Hartford and Lebanon, we bear the brunt of it, given the size and the fact that we have places where you can build without, just getting rid of open farmland, things like that. So I don't have any questions. I just want to say, I think this is really great, very exciting. And remember, the more people we have, our grand list increases, the tax base increases. So I'm very excited about this, and I really support it wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brendan?
Yes, thank you. I had a quick, just a couple of questions. You mentioned that the Evernorth gentleman was present.
Yes.
And they might be able to answer some of these, but I want to kind of like inquire about the quality of this construction in the sense of like really specific things. Like question one would be, is there a drainage plane behind the cladding layer?
Yeah, there is a drainage plane, and again, I'll have to. Matt may know exactly what material that we're looking for and what we expect, but typically you would expect that the building would be wrapped with a product that would allow for water to sheet below the siding.
Right.
Matt, did you want to add anything?
Oh, right, great.
Can you see? I can't. Can you see me, or do you just see my image?
No, we're just hearing you. So
you're only hearing me. Okay, great. So happy to answer that question. Yes, there's going to be a drainage plane. The architects that we've hired is Market Square Architects. It's the same architects that the master developer BlackRock has used. They've got a lot of experience in building multifamily. We are required to not only meet the state building codes, we exceed those codes with the energy standards from our funding. And the buildings that we build are more energy efficient, longer lasting, and better quality than what you'll typically find in the marketplace.
Thank you. Are you going for any specific, bless you. Thank you. Any specific energy certification? Like I know one you could go for is like Energy Star or LEED or Passive House.
Yes, we are. Good question. So we will meet Energy Star requirements, and we are also pursuing the net zero ready standard, which is a federal EPA, I believe it is, or Department of Energy standard that sets a very aggressive standard for energy efficiency and carbon footprint and so forth. That is specifically tied to one of the funding sources that we're seeking. So we will, at a minimum, meet the Energy Star requirements. So we sometimes, we rarely, if ever, anymore pursue LEED because the cost of the certification and some of the details frankly are not worth it. The buildings that we build are far exceed, energy code and so forth. So if you're interested, it sounds like you know what you're talking about in terms of building design and energy efficiency. We'd be happy to share some information with you and the board on the specifics in terms of the specs and the design, if you wish.
Sounds great. Thank you. I was going to ask another question about performance of windows, given that it's like right next to Sykes Mountain Ave, and I'm thinking about the sound transmission from that. But given that you're going for this specific certification, I have high confidence that you're using really good windows. So don't need to talk about that.
Okay, I'd be happy to talk about windows, but no, that's fine. If you're satisfied with that, that's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Andrew, also, I don't know if you even need to address this, but for the new board members, we also had a discussion in the past about water, and if the town of Hartford can handle the water, and they're going to put in a pump, right?
Yeah, so Black Rock, there's sufficient water pressure, as I understand it, along Sykes Mountain Avenue. But the project, the Black Rock project, which is located a little bit higher up on the hillside, that will need a pump to push sufficient pressure up there to operate, hydrants and sprinkler system, et cetera. Is that?
Well, that's correct. But there is infrastructure that's going in at the base in terms of your access and getting up the hill. They're going to be doing that.
They're responsible for doing the roads, but I think as to the water issue, yes, there's a pump installed as part of that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think my question is for you, Lori, and just about our zoning requirements around parking, because just noticing that there's 48 units planned and 54 parking places, which would allow for up to 6 households to potentially have 2 cars, but that doesn't leave room for guests and visitors and things like that. So and just being reminded of a past discussion that we had about a different development project on Christian Ave and concerns that community members came in with about the ratio, the amount of parking spaces to the amount of units. So I just was wondering if you could share anything more about the requirements around number of parking spaces per unit.
And I'm also happy to address that question.
Well, I'll give you a quickie on that. There are requirements right now that we do require 2 per dwelling unit. However, because of its location and its close proximity to public transportation, those are bases on which they can ask for up to a 50% reduction in parking. And they have other community, other projects within our downtown or have done that. That is something they are going forward with us at the end of the month with an application to the Planning Commission for them to review that. And then on that part, I'll let you finish up.
Yeah, so currently, what Twin Pines is doing is working with Black Rock. Black Rock permitted the site. They said, oh, we want to put 48 units. We want 72 parking spaces. We're going in and asking for less, given the population that we're serving, given the fact that Act 47 passed last year, which encourages communities. It doesn't fully apply in this situation, and I'll explain why, but Act 47 encourages communities to go that are on public transportation, water and sewer, to go to a single space per unit as a way to reduce the demand for parking on multifamily projects. What's a little bit different here is that is also focused on proximity to public parking. We don't have that here. That's something that the planning commission, we'll be talking about with the planning commission as a potential modification to the site plan. So we have done a similar project down the street, Sykes Mountain Avenue, called Wentworth, and we ended up building more parking, but much of it is now taken up thanks to flexibility on the part of the planning commission with some additional amenities. So we have actually some outside sitting space that covers up parking spaces that we don't actually need, because frankly, we were building more parking spaces, and we're often building more parking spaces than we need, particularly for affordable properties. Our experience as a developer for low and moderate income folks is, frankly, probably makes sense. Cars are expensive, and they've gotten more expensive to operate and to maintain. And so the reality is, the lower folks' income is, the less likely they are to have a car. And if they have a car, it might be a single car, but we've not had problems with a similar project. Riverwalk is very similar both in terms of the number of parking spaces and the ratio of parking spaces to residents, and we've not had any problems with parking there. So
Thank you.
we'll be talking with the Planning Commission about it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other questions? Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You just mentioned outdoor spaces, and I had a question related to that, and maybe one other. Where on the site plan are the outdoor spaces?
Yeah, so we're going to be redoing the site plan that was up there. I don't know, Lori, if you can bring it back up. There is some area for a patio and playground as well, and that's going to be part of the review process with the Planning Commission.
Okay.
But those are amenities that we typically include.
Great. And on the note of cars, I think you're spot on, particularly when it comes to electric vehicles. But someday, perhaps the second hand market will be such that people who are earning 50% of AMI can buy a used EV. Sure. In that context, will the parking lot have conduit run under or something to provide for stations or fuel charging stations at some point in the future?
Yeah. So the short answer is yes. We're actually required to have several charging stations installed from day one under the state's building code. But we will be, typically, I think we're adding conduit to allow for additional in the future, and that's a requirement that's sort of out there, is something that we do. All of our recent projects, so we finished 3 projects last year in Hartford, and all of them, including those serving the lowest income folks in the community, have at least 2 charging stations out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ashley?
Yes. I had a couple questions. It mentioned somewhere in the presentation that the town would be, I think, reimbursed for some of the administration of the grant. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So the grant application that we're asking for your vote on submitting is for $1 million. From that, $12,000 will be set aside to pay for the town's administrative costs.
And that would include.
That'll cover audit.
The 5 years of reporting.
Documents that have to be transferred in order for us to transfer the funds over to the entity as a sub grantee. So, and all of that has to go through legal review. And so that'll cover our expenses there, and there may be some audit expenses as well.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And then another question I have, which might be for Lori. I don't know what our current status of impact fees are.
We don't have impact.
There
fees
are
at
no
this
impact
juncture.
fees. Okay, so when we connect to the town water sewer to this, essentially
There are
will be
connection fees.
still be a connection fee.
There'll
And
be
is
a
that
connection fee.
calculated based on the size of the development and the size of the need, or is it kind of a flat rate?
That I'm gonna have to pause on. Chris isn't here, but that's all handled by the Public Works Department. But there are connection fees that do apply, which are different than impact fees.
And I will say one additional point that came up in our last meeting with the select board back in February is around real estate taxes. And so this is a project, although Twin Pines is a nonprofit, we pay real estate taxes through the various partnerships that own land in town. And so this will be taxed, albeit at a slightly different rate than if it was true market rate. But it is a taxable, a tax paying addition to the grand list.
Yes, I saw that in the last
Yeah.
meeting. That was helpful.
Yes.
Okay, and then my last question is just about the property management. So I saw that Twin Pines will be the property manager.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, as you are expanding and building more units, is your property management team growing? How are you, how are you handling the growing need with vulnerable populations to make sure that property managers are, able to respond to all the tenants' needs and whatnot?
Yeah, so we have been growing aggressively as we've added units over the last couple of years, adding staff. We continue to hire. If you've got anybody who's looking for, property management job, please send them our way, and particularly maintenance folks. I think we've got an opening right there right now. But those are like many employers, we're looking to hire, but we are in a growth mode. In part because of the additional units.
Miranda have a comment online from
Okay.
Heidi.
Do you know who it is?
Heidi.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Heidi.
Good evening, Heidi Dutaway, River Junction, Vermont. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I have a few comments and a few questions, if I may. Getting back to Ashley with her question on the management of your existing properties. I've heard from a couple residents within your buildings that have filed complaints but are not being heard, nor are they being addressed. And there's issues within at least 2 of your buildings in Hartford on a constant level. How do you go about handling those, and how will you handle this building, especially being up in close proximity, I can't even speak tonight, of a very dense residential area?
Great, thank you. Twin Pines has been the only landlord to participate in, I'm going to call it Heart Start, the efforts to bring nonprofits together with community agencies and landlords. I can't single out any other landlord because none of them showed up, but we're committed to being engaged as an active participant. We work closely when there are problems with public safety officials, both fire and police, and are committed to operating the properties safely. To the extent that there are complaints, concerns, Heidi, you know how to reach me. Please encourage folks to reach out to me if they feel like their concerns are not being addressed. Thank you.
So my other part of that question, Andrew, if I may, there's a very high police presence at 2 of your properties in town, yet the residents that within these facilities that have reached out to management at Twin Pines are not being answered. They're not being helped. So I'm still going to ask you, how are you going to take care of your proposed property if 2 are going without being addressed?
As I mentioned, part of what we do is we work closely with the police and fire departments to address issues as they arise. One of the challenges that does come up is sometimes there are things that are happening behind the scenes if there's a particular issue that we cannot tell other residents about. But be assured that we're addressing those issues.
So I'm not going to get a clear and concise answer. I figured this one out. I'm going to.
Yes, I think, Heidi, we have to move on. I think that.
I'm going to ask a different question, if I may.
Okay, but we've got to make this short.
This is a public hearing of the people, and people should be allowed to ask questions. So if I may, I would like to ask a few more questions.
She's got 2 minutes.
I don't think you held anyone else to that, but thank you very much, Mary. As far as parking goes, Lori Hirschfield referred to other apartment buildings downtown where they've had either reduced parking or no parking. And we've found that we have a major parking problem in downtown. I'm not saying that it's exactly within your proposed building or any of your buildings because I don't go to them myself. But here it says right up on your master plan that you have a 48 unit building proposed with a potential 24 extra units in the second phase. So keeping with at least one parking place per unit, why would you ask for any type of a concession to reduce your parking? Because not everyone in rural Vermont goes without a vehicle. And you really can't.
Lori's going to try and answer your question.
So if I just please speak first.
Okay, sure.
You can't make presumption that someone moving into your building will not have a vehicle is what I'm trying to say. So thank you.
I just wanted to make a clarification that the only thing that is really at this time is the 48 unit. Any additional future phases, which would include maybe up to 24, still have to go to the planning commission for a full evaluation as any application would, which would include evaluating whether or not there was adequate parking for 24 additional units. So at this point, it's only a 48 unit development that is being considered.
Thank you. As Ashley, I believe, pointed out, or it might have been Ida, actually it was Ida, with 6 additional units over the allotted units proposed. What about visitors? What about any type of deliveries like food or groceries that they're getting? I mean, I'm just questioning because this is the time to ask before everything's pushed through completely.
Happy to, again, that is a matter that we'll be discussing with the planning commission. They'll be looking at the same thing. We'll be looking at what we found with our other properties, Riverwalk and right down Sykes Mountain Avenue, Wentworth, in terms of parking and parking demand. So that'll be part of that process, and is separate and distinct from the application before the select board today.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to? Okay.
Can I have another one?
Okay,
Sorry.
Ashley, let's try and, yeah.
Oh, yep. So I had a question about the quantity of 1 bedroom versus studio versus 3 bedrooms. And I just wondered if the decision for those unit sizes was based on a market study or why that kind of mix?
Yeah, so we do, because this is a project funded through the Low Income Housing Tax Credit Program, we actually are required to prepare a market study. So we looked at what's available in the marketplace, what's being built in the marketplace that would be affordable as a low and moderate income to low and moderate income households. And so that is part of the process. One of the things that you'll note is the presence of 3 bedrooms. We've added some 3 bedrooms into this building, in part because what we have found is that there is a demand for some of those larger units. I think everybody has been pushing, other developers, other landlords have often been pushing towards smaller units, 1 bedroom studios. And we have created a lot of those types of units, but there is really a need for 3 bedrooms as well. So again, that's been informed by a market study.
Yeah, I think there's a huge need for 3 bedrooms for people with families.
Yes.
And so, when I see a lot of the new projects happening by yourselves and other developers, and it's all 1 bedrooms or studios, and I'm envisioning who are the folks living in town that are needing these units.
Right.
So I do wonder, is there chance that on this project or on future projects, you'll be focusing on more 3-4 bedroom units, or this is kind of what it's gonna be?
I think as a general matter, my sense is, if we can do 3 or 4 in a project like this, we did 3 or 4 over Riverwalk. That's probably the right size for a building of this size, but that's certainly something I'd be happy to look at for future projects.
Great. Okay.
You've been very helpful. And I know that if people have specific details, you're welcome to come to you to ask those questions. I really appreciate your being
Thank you.
here. Anybody else on the public? Miranda, nobody else?
I'm sorry.
That's all right. We all get a little glazed after a while. Okay, so is there anything else I need to do and before closing the public hearing?
No, that's it. And then I'll go ahead and finish up just a little bit of a brief on next steps.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll close the public hearing info session and we will open as the Hartford Select Board. Would you want me to make the motion immediately after, or is there something else you need to?
Well, I think we talked a little bit about the overall budget on this, but I just want to make sure that there aren't any other questions regarding that. Again, there are no funds that the town is required to provide for this application, except my department's administrative work. And then any outside services would be covered by the 12,000. If for some reason it goes over that, then there would be part of the agreement, like we've done in the past, that Twin Pines Housing Trust or whatever the entity ends up being would be responsible for covering those additional outside services.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Lori about? All right, I will entertain the motion to approve the submittal of.
We have to close the.
Did you close it?
I did close.
Yes, I thought you
Yeah,
did that.
and opened it as a select board.
I
So.
can make the motion.
All right, Ida.
Okay, I move that the select board approve the submittal of a VCDP grant application for the 444 Sykes Mountain Avenue multifamily housing project and authorize the town manager to take all necessary actions to complete and submit the application and implement the grant, and that the select board pass the attached resolution for VCDP grant application authority.
Do we need those separate, Lori?
No, well, you could do it all at once. It really is up to you all what you want to do, and then here's the document.
Right, so you want me to read the resolution at all?
You could do that. If you
Okay.
like.
There is, I'll just read the first part and paraphrase. This is the FY25 municipal resolution for municipal planning grant. Whereas the municipality of Hartford is applying for funding as provided for in the FY25 Budget Act and may receive an award of funds under said provisions. And whereas the Department of Housing and Community Development may offer a grant agreement to this municipality for said funding. And whereas the municipality is maintaining its efforts to provide local funds for municipal and regional planning purposes, or that the municipality has voted at an annual or special meeting to provide local funds for municipal and regional planning purposes. And then the rest of this is, it's resolved, and there's a legislative body of the municipality enters into the agreement, and it includes Municipal Planning Commission, it includes our town manager, John Haverstock, it includes myself as select board chair, and it includes Lori Hirschfield as planning and development director. So that would be passed on the 18th of March, 2025, and all select board members will need to sign that. So, okay, and Mike seconds that motion. Any other discussion?
I have just one thing. I do think that there is a little bit of a communication concern that I have, which I think Heidi touched on a little bit. And yeah, I think I'm going to abstain from voting because of, or recuse myself because of relationships I've had with the tenants union. And I think I'll just wanted to let that be known to the board.
Okay, thank you for that, Ashley. Okay, so I will take a roll call vote on this. Eric?
Aye.
Miranda? Ida?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
And I will say aye. And Ashley has recused herself. So that is 6-4, 0 against and 1 recusal. All right. Okay. So then we go on to the next one, and that's still you, Lori.
So the next one is a fairly quick one as well. As many of you know, you deal with this all the time in the budget, is a capital improvement program. And so this year we are proposing to submit an application to the state for their annual Vermont Municipal Planning Grant Program to actually get resources in order for us to hire a consultant to do a capital improvement plan. And for those in the audience that may want to know a little bit more about that, it's a really important document. We have been doing one, but it's also time to really rev it up a little bit more, refresh our memories of what our priorities are, and really go through that community involvement process and identifying what are those top priorities. And typically a CIP is a 6-year document. It's the 1 year that you're going into and 5 years into the future. And every year you could refresh it. Sometimes you don't do it every year, but you use it as a guide and a plan to make sure that you're hitting all of those high points from a capital improvements perspective that are your long-term goals that you put into action on an annual basis in your budget. So I'm going to pass this over to John to fill in any of the specifics, because this really is something his department, or he specifically, is going to be leading that effort, and we're going to be managing the grant portion of it.
Yes, I'll just take a couple minutes to say that upon my hiring, I did have a couple of meetings with department heads who do have capital needs, and the consensus was that the assistance of a consultant to take a lot of the good raw material already in place and to create a coherent picture, which would then be much more user-friendly by the select board at budget time, would be a great thing to aspire to. So not only looking at operating budgets, but also looking down the road these next 5 or 6 years as to what the capital needs are, and maybe that'll help inform the amounts that we put aside each year for reserves and things of that nature, so that we have the funds needed for capital projects when they come due to be acted upon. So that's really the purpose of it. We have submitted one RFP looking for consultants in the past. Unfortunately, we didn't have any applicants at that point. We are now in the middle of another RFP process, which concludes at the end of this week, and we certainly hope we get some submissions. If we don't, we have certain usual suspects that would probably be willing to do this kind of work if and when they knew that we had grant funds in hand. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Lori or for John before we move to the motion? Sure.
Quick comment. Lori mentioned a 6-year plan with a potential for an annual refresh, and I hope that during the consulting process, if we get through this, that we come out of it with a strong process for the annual refresh. That's easy for us to manage in-house.
Yes, indeed.
I think
It's supposed to generate a very much a product that can be updated by town staff. So yes, that's the idea.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the select board to approve the submission of a VMPG application for $30,000. Mike?
Madam Chair, I move that the select board approve the submission of a VMPG application for $30,000 and adopt and sign the FY25 municipal resolution for municipal planning grant form, designating town manager John Haverstock as the municipal authorizing official, select board chair Mary Erdai as the alternate municipal authorizing official, and Lori Hirschfield as the grant administrator.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And is there a second?
I'll second.
I heard Ashley might write here. Okay, thank you, Ashley. We're second. Is there any discussion before we vote?
Just wanted to say this is very exciting and good luck. And I hope this all goes forward because, yeah, that capital improvement planning is, we're all very interested in it. I know you guys are too. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this is unanimous. We are going to take a little break. 5 minutes. 5 minutes and come back at 8:25. For those of you who need a bathroom number, you know where it is.
Yes.
Have everyone of you met Maxine?
Yes.
No. Okay. You did at the beginning? Yeah. Sort of at the beginning.
I did
Okay, we're
introduce her
excited to meet
briefly.
you. I think we are at the Code of Ethics Designate Complaint Recipient.
Yes, we've kicked this can a few times down the road. As you know, the town did adopt an ethics code enforcement and investigation ordinance, which again just recently became law, passing the 60-day threshold. One of the other things mandated by the new state law on ethics is that the town do two things, one of which it's already done. That's to name a town liaison to the State Ethics Commission. You've done that. You've designated the town manager for that role. Now the requirement is that the town appoint someone as its designated ethics complaint recipient. And that cannot be me, as I explained in my memo, but it can be another member of a town leadership, for example, select board members or department heads. And so, given that the board felt that they should let the new board make this designation, we're here tonight. And I've put forward a recommendation that that the select board nominate or designate the chair as the designated ethics complaint recipient, with the chair authorized to delegate some or all of that authority to the vice chair or the HR director, simply because sometimes the chair is not available, or they're overworked, or they happen to have a vice chair with a legal background in HR, for example. And so we also have an HR director who does this kind of function all the time. So those were the kind of extra tools I was trying to give you in this proposed motion, but my feelings won't be hurt if you want to designate someone else altogether.
Okay, any discussion? All right.
I'll just say the proposal makes sense to me, and I appreciate the flexibility that's incorporated into it.
I do too. Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
There
Did you
is
have
a
a question?
public comment.
Okay.
Okay, Heidi.
Thank you, Miranda. Heidi Duto, White River Junction, Vermont. John, I was just curious if there is an ethics complaint for a select board member, would it be in the best interest to have the chair or vice chair of the select board be the contact person, or should we have multiple levels where there is someone or people on the select board plus a town employee?
Well, I can tell you in my research, Heidi, every town kind of has approached this in different ways. The expectation or the hope is that we never see one of these ethics complaints. We don't live in a perfect world though, so we may see one on occasion. And this proposal from me was just trying to account for the fact that, yes, there could be a complaint against the select board chair or the vice chair or the HR director. And as Ida has pointed out, there's some degree of flexibility here for people to hand off responsibilities for any number of reasons. And this is just one proposal as to how to deal with that.
Wait, may I just add, Mary?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Just adding to what, to John's response, it does outline, in section 4 under complaints, part D, it says municipal ethics complaints against the designated complaint recipient must be directed to the municipal manager. So that is an additional layer of flexibility, that if the complaint is against the chair or the vice chair, whoever is the designated complaint recipient, then you can make that complaint to the town manager.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll take a motion on the recommendation.
Madam Chair.
Ashley.
I move to appoint the select board chair as the town's designated ethics complaint recipient, with the chair authorized to delegate some or all of their authority and responsibility in this role to the vice chair or the HR director.
All right, Ashley has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second from Miranda. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and we are down to readoption of select board rules and procedures.
Yes, as some of the incumbent members of the board know, back in June of last year, the select board adopted the current rules of procedure, working with the VLCT consultant Dominic Cloud, who also serves as St. Albans city manager, to identify ways to make select board meetings more efficient. Paragraph 7 of those rules and best practices suggest the review and readoption of these rules annually so that the new board has an opportunity to review, discuss, and modify the document if there's a majority wishing to do so.
Can you take these separately, the rules and procedures?
Yes, that's what I had in mind, just to keep things clean. I should point out then, as an explainer, that the former rules of procedure were more involved and did contain some elements which are now in the code of conduct. But we decided to have a clean and focused rules of procedure, and some of those elements that were lost in that process were incorporated into a new code of conduct, which is something we'll look at later.
So, any questions from anybody? Discussion? Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question on both numbers 9 and 13. There is a phrase about relative to notification of meetings. It says all notification will go out to news director, radio station serving the area, so on and so forth, and any person who has requested notice of meetings. Can you speak, or can someone speak to what that means specifically and what the procedure is? And is there a...
I don't know what that phrase means or refers to.
I thought it referred to like people who are like, can you like ping me by email or something when a meeting is going to be scheduled? Like we kind of let people, like some people who are interested and they're like, well, I never know when the meeting is, or I can't find it set up, but we affirmatively like include them on the list. Right?
Well, that's a good question then for me to raise with our communications person to see if there is such a list maintained by the town in which he does satisfy.
Signed up for it, but I think that was what the impetus was for it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just I can understand that, and what you're suggesting might make sense. I just didn't know who's maintaining that list and so on, and whether it with all of the communication channels that we have these days, whether that's still a requirement or whether this is something that's been carried on. And you know, in 9 and 13, do we want to continue to include that language?
Brandon?
Well, I'm all in favor of efficiency. I also know that this could benefit someone if they were trying to start up a local media, something or other, a blog or something. They might reach out to the town and say, hey, could you put me on the list? If there is such
a list, yeah.
We have 2 hands raised online.
Okay.
Lana?
Hi. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we have a public list. It's about 25 to 30 emails of people that have asked to be notified of the meeting. So they get the agenda without the attachments, and we send that out every time. I maintain the list.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lana.
Thank you, Lana.
Yeah.
We all learned something new.
Yes.
Don't we? Okay, somebody else?
Kim, go ahead.
Hey, hi you guys. Yeah, there is there's a notification like program on the town website where you can sign up to not only receive like the agendas for the select board, but also different committees, and also for like whenever an RFP is released, like that's already incorporated into the town's website notification process. Just sharing.
I knew that the communications and media specialist had means by which people could sign up for certain alerts And maybe that's one category of them. Another was to receive the biweekly newsletter, for example.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One more question on number 36, under public participation. Just procedurally, what happens? It says there's a 10-minute public comment period. If the first three commenters take 3 minutes each, what happens to the fourth? Procedurally, do they get 1 minute, or do we, like, how hard and fast are we? Do we want to use that language, in other words?
If I can, in my time as chair, we take public comment until people are done. Those are sort of aspirational, like all of our timeframes on the agendas generally, but you know, shutting people off who are waiting to speak, it's I think that may violate.
I think also we've specified to people that everyone needs to speak once time through. And, you know, generally not come back to talk about the same issue. That's one of the things that we tried to make it more efficient, is that you can't just keep going back and forth and carrying on a dialogue and discussion of that. But I haven't, it has rarely happened.
Okay, well, if there are no other amendments, maybe it's not worth changing that, but if there are other amendments, you know, maybe we consider different language there, because that is rather specific.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I am sort of recalling discussing this with Dominic Cloud last year. And I think it was his recommendation to keep that in there as sort of a general guideline, as part of the bigger point of our training with him was around, you know, how to make our meetings shorter and more efficient. And he did say that, you know, if we have at least a 10-minute period, even if we don't get to every person who wants to speak, that does meet the requirement of open meeting law, and that there's a reasonable opportunity to come to the meeting and have your voice be heard. I do remember we had like some questions about that one, but that's how he phrased it to us.
That's true. But at the same time, I don't think we've ever enforced the hard
Correct.
10-minute limit.
No, correct. I mean, I think, yeah, we've never enforced it. I'm not opposed to keeping it in there, just as sort of a reminder to ourselves that we are trying to like, have meetings be shorter and have people have the opportunity to make a comment, but like Mary said, not engage in a back and forth dialogue. But yeah, I agree that it's not something that we're holding ourselves to very stringently.
Any other questions? Eric?
I have one more, if I may.
All right.
Number 38, public comment is an opportunity for the public to comment. It's not a place for dialogue. I think that's a great one, and it might be something that is a footnote on the agendas, perhaps, just to remind people that, for example, the Hartford School District has such a footnote on their agendas, and it says anyone making a comment will be given 2 minutes to speak and can expect a response that falls into one of the following categories. And then it itemizes a list of categories, and one of them might be just thank you for your comment, and at the other end of the spectrum is, you know, it might precipitate a public hearing or something like that. I'm not sure that all of those categories necessarily need to be enumerated, but it makes very clear that public comment you don't necessarily get a response during public comment, because and sometimes the public hopes for one, and
Right.
And so if there are more clear expectations that you might not get a response, it might be useful in some scenarios. So thank you.
Just respond to say I like that suggestion to have some guidance on the agendas, some standing guidance around public comment.
So now we have a public comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Heidi.
Heidi Duta, White River Junction, Vermont. Thank you, Eric, for your attempt to bring forth some possible issues that you may see. There are guidelines and there are laws, and open meeting law is actually where a person of the public has a right to speak. The school board does set forth guidelines at the beginning of their meeting or on their agendas, yet they normally do try to answer questions that are addressed to them. I feel as if this may be an attempt to take away individuals that actually do choose to participate in town meetings, take away their First Amendment rights. So that's where I'm going to leave this. So thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
Just to be sure, we're just reviewing the existing rules of procedure that are currently in place. Yep.
So I would entertain a motion to move that the select board re-adopt the rules of procedure.
Madam Chair, I move that the select board re-adopt the rules of procedure.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Ida, thank you for the second. Maybe I'll call a roll call vote because I think there's some quizzical feelings.
I think maybe there's a question as to whether any of these proposed modifications are going to be entertained.
How would I do that? Because would we not adopt this at this time then?
Well, you could adopt it as an amendment, as an amended document. So for example, we've heard from Eric that he might like to see 2 or 3 changes.
Okay.
I guess it would depend on
What those
whether the
changes are.
majority of the board is agreeable to such a thing. So maybe the person who's suggesting changes could make a proposed amendment and see how that fares. And then you can vote on the overall package.
Okay.
Erica, do you want to present an amendment to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, John. So the suggestion for putting something on the agenda probably doesn't fall within the, or it could, I suppose. So public comment is an opportunity for the public to comment. It's not a place for dialogue. We could just add one phrase there that says something to the effect that this will be noted in the footer of agendas. So I guess I'll make that as the first proposal. And the second one being in item 36, there'll be a 10-minute public comment period. I would just add a word in there. Optimally, we're targeting a 10-minute public comment period or something. I mean, if we're gonna write procedures and we're gonna follow procedures, we might as well write them in a way that they're followed. So those are my 2 36 and 38 suggestions.
So I'm no closer to, are you asking for an amendment?
I am asking the board to amend the procedures as I just stated.
Then you might ask if there's further discussion or comment.
Okay. Are there further discussions or comments?
Maybe they ask for a second for that.
I
amendment,
thought
for
we
that
had a
motion.
second.
We do for the underlying
We have a
motion.
motion for the whole package.
Right.
If we're gonna entertain an amendment, I think you gotta do that first. So we
Okay.
need a motion made for the amendment, we need a second. And then
Okay, so that's your.
I will move that. I'll
Okay.
move those 2 amendments for 36,
Oh.
numbers 36 and 38.
I will second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Eric to amend and Ashley's second.
Although I do,
More discussion.
yeah, I just want to make sure I'm clear on what the language is in this amendment for number 36 for the public comment. We're adding the word optimally, or where are you envisioning that word is added?
Correct. There will optimally be a 10-minute public comment period for items not on the agenda.
Okay.
And I'm open to friendly amendments to that language since I'm, obviously this is off the cuff.
I think that does it.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I don't know if there's other discussion.
And on the other one, was there?
38, I just was suggesting appending an additional sentence to number 38 to say that agenda, in the footer of agendas, the above will be included.
The above
Or the above being number 38 itself.
Right.
Or how about number 38 will be included at the footer of agendas?
Okay. So.
One more item of discussion there. So if we're looking at the school board's model where they list kind of like an expectation for what level of response they might get, do we not have interest in giving, do we want to give further information than that one sentence on the bottom of the agenda, or we just want to keep that one sentence?
My sense is there isn't strong appetite for a large degree of changes here. So I was going with the simplest. It's just a little tickler reminder to people as they're reading the agenda that this is an opportunity for comment and that not necessarily a place for dialogue.
And I wonder if the language then after it could be, rather than saying this will be on the footnote, but see footnote for reminder or for details. Then it gives you the flexibility on the agenda to put whatever you'd like in that footnote in regards to that topic. Is that too complicated?
I didn't quite follow you. I'm not sure if.
Well, I guess the difference to me is that we either are just going to write at the bottom of the agendas the two sentences that is 38.
Mhm.
Public comment is an opportunity for comment. It's not the place for dialogue. And that's all that will be at the footer of the agenda. Or we could amend that to say, see agenda for further detail, or see agenda, reference agenda. And then we could put more than just that sentence on the agenda if we want to. We could include information on what responses they would get or expect.
Personally feel that makes it more complex, and I think the simpler the better. I'm always going for simplifying, but I only one voice.
Okay.
So Ida, you have your hand, please.
I was gonna say, if we have the sentence added to 38 that says this will be noted in the footer of the SB meeting agendas, I think that still allows for the flexibility to work on the language in the agenda at a later date.
Yes, that exact sentence, the way you said it makes sense.
Which
to
is
me.
the way Eric said it.
And
the
I
first time
apologize.
you brought it
Was
up.
that the
Yeah.
first time? Okay,
Yeah.
I got lost somewhere along there, and I think it changed a little bit, and then that's perfect.
Okay. Are we
Great.
pretty clear on the amendments? Oh, sorry.
I was also just gonna add, already in the I mean, it's not really a footer, but there's like the adjournment of meeting, there's already a note about public comments. I feel like it could potentially just fit in right there. And would it need to be, I don't know what to call that. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be like an additional footer, but could it go into whatever that paragraph is called?
Well, just a thought. I mean, the fact that it is already there and none of us knew that means that maybe
Well,
people aren't really
exact.
reading. Well, but it's like small. I don't know. I
Yes.
wonder if we could just say it will be included in the agenda, and then we can maybe put it under the public comment section of
Yeah.
the agenda, so people actually see it.
Yeah.
But I think that the details of how it looks in the agenda can be kind of workshopped and played with, and we're not setting that in stone right now. But I do think we can add an amendment that references that this information will be noted in the select board meeting agendas.
Perfect.
So, we have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Would you, what?
I have more discussion.
Okay. Do we want to, are you ready to vote on this?
On the amendments or on the whole thing?
On the amendment
Can I make a
first.
motion to amend the amendment.
Yeah.
I think we did that, right? Aren't we at a point where we
have to vote on amending.
Yeah.
The rules of procedure, then we have to vote on adopting the rules as amended.
Right.
Yes,
So
okay.
we're only at the first stage of that.
Right. Okay, so we're voting on Eric's amendment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's some more discussion on it.
Well,
Yeah,
Okay.
I want this.
okay. Go ahead.
Couple things on this. You can add a disclaimer to the agenda without changing the rules of procedure. I think that's totally within the chair's authorization as the person who sets the agenda. Two, public comments always been kind of an organic thing. And if you look back at all our public comments, if there are people who need to speak, they speak. The 10-minute rules never mattered as aspirational. If someone asks a question, generally John will answer it, or if they ask a question specifically of a board member, usually the board member can choose to respond or not. This language was developed over the course of months with someone from VLCT, and now we're amending it at 9 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. So for those reasons, I'm going to vote no on the amendment. I will vote yes in favor of readopting the rules of procedure in either event.
Okay. You had a question, Brandon, or
No.
discussion?
No, I just noted that our colleague did.
Okay, so I am, we're gonna vote on Eric's amendment. And so I'm gonna call the roll call vote. I'm gonna start with Ashley.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
nay?
Nay.
Oops, I should be last.
Yeah.
Mike?
Nay.
Aye.
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 And nay. Okay, so that is 5. All right, now, we vote on the
Amended.
Procedure as amended.
Yes.
rules of procedure as amended. Do I have a motion? I'll entertain a motion for adopting the rules of procedure as amended.
I move that the select board adopt the rules of procedures as amended.
Okay, thank you, Miranda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ida, second. Okay. All in favor, I think I'll start this roll call again. And Eric?
Aye.
Amanda? Ida?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Brandon?
Aye.
Aye.
Ashley, aye. And I will say aye. Okay. So that is unanimous. Okay, we move on to the readoption of select board code of conduct.
Yes, and I think I already gave you a decent preamble of where we stand. It's a relatively new document created last year, the first time, with remnants of what had been part of the rules of procedure. And again, the question is whether you folks want to readopt it or amend it in some way.
So, I know you've all read this. Are there questions, discussion? Mike?
So as John mentioned, originally our initial rules of procedure included kind of all of these in there, and then we decided to separate them out, which I think is but I do think it's good to have, you know, I think it's good to have expectations of the role of select board members, and also spelling out our role and the limits of our role vis-a-vis the town manager. So I think this is important, and I will support it.
Okay. Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question for clarification on number 10, the second sentence, provide written reports of communication with the town manager and vice versa within a week of their occurrence. I don't really understand that sentence, like who provides to what to whom?
In my experience, it has not taken place.
Okay.
Not a good answer, John.
That's the answer.
Which one? 10. Number 10.
I think we found in the past that, you know, the only time the chair really interacts just with the town manager, the vice chair as well, is an agenda setting, and the agenda is the written report of what they communicated about. Generally, if there's like an emergency and the town manager lets the chair know, hey, this is happening, you know, the chair or the town manager sends out an email to the select board to update them or give them any necessary alerts. I think the fact that we have John here, very responsive with giving the select board and public updates, that you know, this is more of a town manager role than the chair role.
Okay. Any other questions? Excuse me. All right, I will entertain a motion to readopt the select board code of conduct.
Madam Chair,
Okay, Ashley,
I move that the select board readopt the code of conduct.
thank you. Is there a second? A second from Miranda. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. All right, so we move on to discuss and agree on committee liaison assignments.
Yes, so I believe Lana has provided everybody pretty solid information as to what these committees consist of, what the expectations are. And there is a committee liaison policy, which has also been provided on a couple of occasions, just to give you an idea as to what role select board members play as liaisons. And I think tonight is all about identifying who might be interested and who might be willing to serve on which committees, and to try to achieve some kind of balance so that nobody's overloaded and nobody is underloaded, so to speak.
I wasn't a part of this last year because I was out of the country. So I remember just giving my preferences at the time. So anyway, then we went from there. So
It sounded like everybody was pretty flexible,
yeah,
even the incumbents, about whether they needed to stay on their current assignments or
Right.
not. That's why we gave you kind of a blank sheet to imagine yourself
right.
not dissuaded
Right.
just by the fact that someone else might be serving that role now.
So I don't know if the best bet is just go down the road or have, go down each person, tell what you're interested in. Preferences.
I'm just looking at all this.
Okay, yeah, that might be the easiest.
And you can note who's like in it already.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start off, and because we've already said that there's, the Aquatic Center Oversight Committee, that's none. And if that happens, then I'll go, whatever, but we'll start with the Conservation Commission. I've been on the Conservation Commission for 3 years. So I'm ready for someone else to move into that role. They're great people. I think, as Eric has stated before, it's important to move out of things that you're totally comfortable with and get to know new people. So is there any interest from someone else? On the Conservation Commission? Eric?
I would be interested in that. It's, but if there's other interest,
I think you got it.
okay, I got it.
We're gonna make this easy. All right. Eric, okay, Design Review Committee. Anybody specifically interested in design review?
I am the current liaison to that. I'm happy to give it up.
Okay. I'll do Design Review Committee. I am fine with that. So, all right. Energy Commission, these are two, all right? They're two separate
Energy
ones.
Commission and Climate.
Or
Action.
you're both, you're on both, or no, it's two different, it's two separate, because Ida, you've been on it, right?
I was on the Energy Commission, but I think you, Mike, were
I think
actually
I
the
was-
cast
I was
one.
the
Yeah,
cast.
yeah.
Okay,
They meet separately, I believe.
okay, so Energy Commission, is there?
Yeah, so. Yeah, is anyone interested in it? Again, they're wonderful people, great to work with. Dana's a really core member of our staff, and he's the staff liaison to this committee and does a ton of work. As a full-time employee on the staff, and then Jesse Pollard is the community member who's the chair of the commission, and yeah, he's also an excellent, knowledgeable person who's done a lot of great work for the town. So
Folks are interested there.
I'm not uninterested. It's not my top pick, but if that's one that needs filling, do you want to stay there?
Could we say, I was wondering if we could maybe could we do Ashley or Ida and then come revisit at the end?
Yeah.
Okay,
That sounds
let's do
great.
that.
Okay, let me put that down.
Just so we can get a fuller picture before we lock in them all.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's great.
Climate Action Steering Team.
I believe it's technically me.
Yeah.
I'm happy to stay on it, but if someone really has more interest in that committee, it is a good committee. I'm willing to give it up, but otherwise, if not, I'm happy to stay on.
Okay, anybody else interested?
That's another one that I'm I wouldn't be
One or the
sad
other?
if I landed there, but.
All right,
Okay, yeah, you can put my name in there.
all right. Hartford Business Revolving Loan.
This meets very rarely, I'm told.
I know.
I would like to be on that.
All right, Miranda.
Mary, for what it's worth about the rarity of meetings, Design Review Committee is also rarely held.
I know you had that because I mean, I think it depends on the business at hand. If they had a lot of business, they'll have a lot of meetings. If not, yeah. Okay, Hartford Committee on Racial Equity and Inclusion, H. Corey.
I would also like to have that one. I will
Okay.
apply for the next.
That'd be great. I know they want you.
And Mary, we have room for 2 liaisons there. Is that
No,
what this means?
it's not.
Okay.
It used to be 2 seats.
Okay. So
But it's
you-
only 1 seat and you are a voting member. And you do have to apply, and Miranda knows that because she asked me about that, so. And homeless is also an application that you have to put in.
Housing and homeless.
Housing and homeless, okay. Hartford Community Coalition,
Oh, yeah, I'm interested in this one too.
well, let me put you both down. Okay, so Ida,
Can I just say, I don't know, I would love to hear your reasons for being interested in it too, Ashley, if you want to say.
Yeah, I've known a few people that have been involved with that group over the years. I love their outreach style. I love the events that they put on. Yeah, it's just something that I've considered joining in the past. That being said, I also was looking at like a committee that would be a heavier lift and one that would be a lighter lift, and they do meet less frequently. So I thought, yeah, so.
and Ida, what's your interest in,
Yeah, I mean, I've just been really impressed with Emily
San
San
Leone,
Leone, who organizes it, and I know she's done like a really cool like data project with the high school students where they like look at the purpose of behavioral health adolescent survey. It's like a national survey, and they like look at the data. I've like talked to her about like maybe trying to get involved with that since it overlaps with my work and my kind of skills, but it hadn't happened yet. So I was like, oh, if I was actually a liaison, I would probably give me the boost to like get more
Right.
involved with the community coalition. So
Then you
it's
should do it for sure.
I mean, we could let's revisit. We'll come back.
Okay,
to it,
okay.
but yeah.
okay. Hartford Tree Board,
I'm currently on it. I would be happy to continue with it unless someone else is. You're interested? Yeah.
okay, let's go with Miranda.
Was that
then.
one of your 3 that you were
No,
hoping for?
that was
Okay.
new for today.
Okay.
Oh, Miranda, you are done.
Okay.
All right. Historic Preservation Commission.
I would be happy to take that.
Okay, thank you, Eric. All right. Hartford Committee on Housing and Homeless, this is the one that you have an application, but you're not a voting member, right?
You are a voting.
You are a voting member, okay.
I'm currently on it. I'd just as soon stay on it.
Okay. Anybody have any problems with that? All right, so Brandon. Parks and Recreation Commission. I was on Parks and Rec until a new board member wanted it, but then the board member left, so I was back on it. So,
I'm interested in that one.
are you?
Yeah.
Would you? Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Ashley, you're gonna probably take yourself off of some other ones as a result. All right.
Yeah.
Planning Commission.
I'm very interested in joining it if depending on others.
Okay. Anybody else specifically would like Planning Commission? Miranda, you're out of the pile, so
I am.
you are. You both are.
But that being said, Brandon, I'm also interested in the zoning board. So I don't have a strong preference if you want to do planning, and I'll take zoning. I love talking about setbacks.
Okay. Well, we're gonna jump to 2. So is anybody interested, really strongly feeling about zoning? Okay, so we'll have Planning Commission, Brandon, and zoning, Ashley. All right, we're getting down there. Resilient Hartford.
This was mine. I was not super active with this committee, but they are a really interesting group of people, and they're working on a food forest in the the park in West Hartford, Clifford Park. Yeah, so, and that park has experienced lots of flooding, so it's been a real test of resilience. They've had to like come back but that's only one of their projects. I know they have more going on. But yeah, I will, yeah, if anyone else is interested in jumping in, I'd be happy to cede my role. I mean, I think another area where this came up was when we had the listening session in Wilder. Something that folks were kind of expressing and yearning for was just more kind of community potlucks and meals together and gathering places as a way to build community resilience. So like sort of neighborhood level community building and connection. And I know that one of the recent applicants who joined, who we approved for the Resilient Hartford, was interested in that initiative too. So I haven't checked back in to see how they've incorporated that into their work, but that was just another thing that was relevant.
Okay.
And they meet every Tuesday? Is that right?
No, I think it's once a month.
Resilience is fourth Wednesday of the month.
Oh, am I looking at the wrong?
This is Tuesday.
It just says Tuesdays.
But no,
That's what mine says.
But it is once per month.
It's once per month. I'm almost positive.
I would love it if nobody else wants it.
Okay, I think, Ashley, you've got it, and I think you don't need to go on any others.
I will.
School board.
I'm the school board liaison. One kind of nice thing about it is, the school board's separate board entity, and they televise their meetings and they write up their minutes, so I generally don't give commission reports on it, but as a liaison, I mean, they've reached out to me before when we wanted to do like a joint school and town board meeting. So I mean, it's not really a heavy lift, even though it has a liaison and 2 alternates. And I'm happy to stay on it. Unless someone's really, unless someone really wants it, then I'm happy to something else.
They've always had like a second alternate. So if you don't mind, Mike, I'll go ahead and be your second alternate again.
That's fine with me.
If that's all right.
First alternate or second?
First alternate, I guess, second person.
Yeah.
Sorry. Mike.
And do we have to appoint a second alternate?
Well, there have been in the past, but I don't think it's necessary. There've been, Kim and I have been, either first or second. Okay, Sister Cities.
I am the Sister Cities liaison, and I do enjoy being on the Sister Cities committee. Also one, it's not like a huge lift.
Right.
It is, they will reach out to the liaison once in a while up there. Mainly things like, can we get before the board to do an update, things like that. So, it's not really like, it's pretty mild,
Okay, so anybody else interested in Sister Cities? Joie de vivre. Okay, so Mike. Sister Cities. So let me say the ones that are kind of definites here right now. Conservation Commission, Eric. Design Review Committee, Mary, me. Energy Commission, I'm crossing out Ashley because she has 3 others.
Okay.
So I have you.
Then okay. There's
Then
the
we
general guideline is 3, Ashley. So yeah, are you good with Parks and Rec, Resilient Hartford, and Zoning Board? Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, so then we've got Climate Action Steering Team. We've got, so I'll have to cross out Ashley and put Mike in there. Is that
I'm happy to stay on.
okay? Hartford Business Revolving Loan, that's Miranda. Hartford Committee on Racial Equity and Inclusion, that's Miranda. We are down to Hartford Community Coalition. I guess Ida, that would be you.
Yes.
Okay. And then Miranda Tree Board, Historic Preservation, Eric. Hartford Committee on Housing and Homelessness, Brandon. Parks and Rec, Ashley. Planning Commission, Brandon. Resilient Hartford, Ashley. School Board, Mike and Mary, Sister Cities, Mike, and Ashley Zoning Board of Adjustment. Okay? Eric?
Thank you. Before we lock it all in, did anyone end up with like 4?
No.
Okay, so everybody's, because I have 2 and I was going to say I'll pick up some more slack if maybe.
It's entirely up to you if you want to renegotiate.
Have Conservation Commission and the Historic Preservation.
My one question for you, Eric, was are you interested at all in the climate action steering team? I know you had you were past chair of the Energy Commission.
Yeah.
They might benefit from
I'm
your.
happy to give you that one.
Not, I don't want to overload you, but yeah.
I didn't fight for that because I will be paying attention anyway.
Right.
And so it's, if you're good with being on those, Mike, then yeah. I just wanted to make, I end up with 2. So I just want to be a slacker here.
I also have 2. I just think it's.
Yeah, I
should
do
be
too.
okay.
All right.
I mean, I would say if you're paying attention anyway, it might make sense just to have Eric.
I'm sure he would
Yeah.
bring more to
Yeah.
it.
Which one is it?
Climate action steering
You're
team.
just a
Okay.
conduit, right? So
Yeah, basically,
So
I mean,
it's not like they need your input.
Right,
Other
right.
than
No, I
what
mean,
the
it's a
board's.
liaison for
Right.
most of those, it's just, it may reach out. The chair may say to you like, hey, we want to hear an update from climate action, and I'd say, liaison would say, hey, talk to John and the chair about it, I want to get an update. So it's like, for those ones, yeah, you're basically just a conduit for when you need to get in touch with someone.
So that's what you want is the climate action steering? I lost it here.
I think we're keeping it as.
Yeah, we can keep it as is if we want. with
Okay.
me, And then I know Eric has more, but
Okay,
Eric's following it regardless.
okay, so we're keeping it as it was. As we just got through, okay. Sorry, do you want me to go through it again?
No, I don't think so.
All right,
Okay.
John, have you got it?
I think so.
All right, good. All right, so then, commission reports.
So
Yes.
I guess
Eric.
point of order, does it say in the policy that we're supposed to move this as a slate or something?
I
We never have.
We never
Okay.
have.
It's just been by.
Look, we
Just something in the
volunteered and
policy.
we notified the people who are the staff contact,
Okay.
so. Sorry. Okay, so, do we have any commission reports? I start with Eric. I'm sure you don't because they're Miranda, Mike, Brandon, Ashley, none for me either. Okay,
I do have a question about that, though.
Okay.
Point of information.
yes.
So will a select board member would give that report at the request of the committee, or is there a revolving like?
This is on the agenda every time. So if you've gone to a meeting and there's something you want to notify the public about.
Okay.
That's when you do it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just up to your discretion,
Right.
basically. Often people don't have, because either there wasn't a meeting or they weren't able to make the meeting or the committee didn't have anything pressing that they really need
Right.
the public to be aware of. I mean, all their meetings are public also, and they
Right.
post minutes, but it's just like another opportunity for there to be a little more select board awareness or public awareness around what's going on with the committees. But if you have nothing to report, then that's fine, and that
And,
happens a
and one
lot.
helpful hint, if you've reduced anything to writing, maybe a very short writing, you can please forward those on to Lana,
Right,
who will incorporate them into the meeting minutes.
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Awesome.
So if you had a meeting, there was some things you wanted to report because it was very interesting. And then, so you write the blurb. I usually brought it to the select board meeting, read it off, and then it goes to Lana. I just send it to her as well.
And
Okay.
typically it's a summary,
Yeah.
2 to 5 sentences.
Right. Just
Yeah, like it'd be like, I met with Sister Cities Bet. They are hosting an exchange group from Sinon, France. They were gonna give us they want to give us an update in a couple weeks. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Like very short.
yeah. Awesome.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. So no commission reports. Is there a motion for the consent agenda? Mike?
Madam Chair, I move the select board approve payroll in the 3/15/2025, approve AP manifest 3/14/2025, and 3/20/2025. Approved meeting minutes at 2:25:25 and 3:6:25. Future meetings approved April 1, April 15, April 29, 2025.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Eric, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, so it's unanimous. And now we have the executive session motion. This is to be read out loud and then we'll go into executive session. It's like a motion.
I note the incompleteness of that particular motion. I've got whoever wants to make the motion, I can give them a more detailed statutory support.
I'm happy to make the motion.
Okay.
There you go.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Brandon.
Thank you. I move that we enter executive session. I move to find that premature general public knowledge would clearly place this body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage pursuant to 1 VSA section 313A1. And I move to discuss an existing and or potential contract and related legal advice pursuant to 1 VSA sections 313A1A and 313A1F.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so it is unanimous. We will go into executive session. Here's some water. Are we back on? Nick? Okay. Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
I move that the board come out of executive session.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, a motion has been made by Mike and seconded by Brandon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That is unanimous. Is there a motion on the proposed post-executive session ambulance purchase motion?
I move that due to an unforeseen increase in the purchase price for its new ambulance, which has been renegotiated, the Hartford Fire Department now be authorized to purchase a 2023 ambulance from Specialty Vehicles Incorporated for $352,844. The town manager may utilize voter-approved lot funds in the amount of $200,000, the fire/ambulance reserve account, and the proceeds from the planned sale of the 2016 ambulance to purchase the new ambulance.
Thank you, Miranda. There's been a motion on the floor for this ambulance, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second from Ida. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that is unanimous. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
And everybody signed everything.
Has everybody had a chance to sign?
No, it wasn't.
That was really.